Chapter 2935. Oh, Zhu Qinghe was shocked. His expression was a little unnatural. He rolled his eyes and asked curiously, "How did you know?" Don't joke with me." Jiang Fian pointed at the jade slip in front of her and said with a smile, "It's written clearly in this jade slip. This time, 9 jade slips were sent. Senior brother Zhu, did you not see them?" Zhu Qinghe smiled faintly. He waved his hand and took out the jade slip. He handed it to Jiang Fian and said, "The information in this jade slip is a little strange, so I took it out alone to discuss with the 3 of you." "Oh." Jiang Fian raised her eyebrows and asked curiously, "What's so special about the information in this jade slip?" "Take a look for yourself," Zhu Qinghe said with a smile. "Weren't you asking just now? Where did LV Ruochang go? There are some clues in this jade slip." Although Jiang Fian was a little surprised and did not understand Zhu Qinghe's actions today, she did not have any special suspicions. Moreover, when she immersed her divine thought in and saw it, she threw her doubts away. What? The Sword Master of the Black Phoenix Sword Sect issued the Sword Master command? He went to Drifting Cloud Lake to kill the cultivator with the surname Xiao? Yes. Zhu Qinghe took advantage of the situation and said, "All the information in this jade slip is similar to the information in the other 8 jade slips. They are all deceiving themselves. However, this piece of information is mixed in, and it's so obvious. This Zhu suspects that this is a trap. That's why I took it out to discuss with you." The jade slip was passed between Gu Yin and Pan Dongmin. Both of them looked at it, and then frowned slightly. They looked at each other and suddenly understood. "Junior brother Zhu, I think that this information should be true," Gu Yun said faintly. "This information was sent by our cultivator's secret pawn in the sword tomb. Moreover, the way he got the information was normal. What's more, when he got the information, it was when LV Ruochang left the sword tomb. These 2 pieces of information corroborated each other, and should prove that both pieces of information are true." It's precisely because both of them are so coincidental that I just thought that the message was sent here. That's why I'm so suspicious and feel that there's something fishy going on, Zhu Qinghe said with a smile. "It must be a trap set up by the swordsmen here. They want to draw our attention away from their target." Speaking up to this point, Zhu Qinghe said confidently, "The fact that they are trying to cover up so much shows that our previous actions must have already found the sword cultivator's vital point, and they have no choice but to cover it up. But the vital point that we found, where is it? No, this information is correct." Jiang Fian shook her head firmly. If they wanted to set up a trap, they would have set it up near the sword tomb. How could they set it up directly at the Flowing Cloud Lake? That Flowing Cloud Lake was far away in Huan country. How can cultivators like us go there? Zhu Qinghe frowned. After thinking for a while, he shook his head and said, "It may not be as simple as Junior Sister thinks. The cultivator's surname Xiao must be Xiaohua. Xiaohua is with Li Zongbao from the Utopia sect." Jiang Fian did not wait for Zhu Qinghe to finish speaking. Her fingers flicked on the 6-string zither, and a sharp sound rang out. Li Zongbao and the others actually broke through the blockade of Huan country, and they even entered millions of Meng mountains. How did they do it? And that Black Phoenix Sword Sect's Sword Master actually issued the Sword Master command. It seems like they have already attracted the attention of the sword cultivators. This matter is definitely fishy. "Fairy Fian, you mean?" Gu Yun asked with a serious expression. However, Jiang Fian did not pay attention to Gu Yun. She seemed to have thought of something. Her eyes stared straight at the 6-string zither in front of her, and her brows were tightly knitted. "Go and save them," Pan Dongmin said straightforwardly. "What the sword cultivators want to do is what we want to stop. What's more, Li Zongbao and the others are the heroes of the great battle of Dao and Sword. If the other disciples know that we have received the news, but do not go and save them, what will they think? Their hearts will definitely turn cold. I object to sending the participating disciples to save them." Zhu Qinghe frowned and said, "Even if this news is true, the participating nascent soul stage masters have the entire battle under control. If they leave, I'm afraid it will be disadvantageous to the battle. Moreover, this news is more than a month ago. Even if Zhenren He Ping of the Utopia faction wants to save them, I'm afraid it will be too late. If we don't send the participating disciples, let the disciples of Shi country go, Pan Dongmin replied without hesitation. Gu Yan nodded. Li Zongbao of the Utopia faction is the flag of the great battle. We must not let him fall. Since Huan country wants to send the non-participating swordsmen to kill them, then our Dao sect will also send non-participating cultivators to save them. Sky Patrol City. It's Sky Patrol City. Jiang Fian, who had been pondering, suddenly relaxed her brows. An indescribable glory radiated from her not-so-beautiful face. It was a kind of confidence, a kind of pride. Sky Patrol City? Gu Yin, Zhu Qinghe, and Pan Dongmin were all stunned. They looked at each other, and there was a trace of understanding on their faces. Yes, Sky Patrol City is a bright lamp in the dark night, illuminating the battle between Shi country and Huan country. Under the brilliance of this bright lamp, we are searching for the mystery of this battle. However, we have forgotten the source of this brilliance. As long as the sword cultivator of Huan country takes down Sky Patrol City, the entire battle will fall into darkness, and we will inevitably fall into a passive state. Jiang Fian explained with a smile of exultation. But Zhu Qinghe still disagreed. He shook his head and said, "It's not that we haven't discussed the Sky Patrol City before, but we always rejected it. The Sky Patrol City has never lost in any of the previous wars. Not in the past doesn't mean it won't in the future." Jiang Fian's tone was a little high-pitched, and she seemed to be extremely dissatisfied with Zhu Qinghe's distrust of her. Maybe the sword cultivator has never had the means to take down Sky Patrol City in one fell swoop, so he has been delaying the battle. Pan Dongmin heard Jiang Fian's high-pitched voice and frowned slightly. There was a trace of displeasure in his eyes, but he still said, "Junior brother Zhu, I remember a long time ago when you were at Floating Duckweed Mountain with your sect leader Bai Kongzi and sect leader Sun Yunzi. The sect leader of Jinghua sect, Quangtian Zhenren of the Imperial Thunder sect, received a message from our disciples, saying that the sword cultivator's ultimate goal is Sky Patrol City, right?" Zhu Qinghe smiled faintly and nodded. Indeed. At this time, Quangtian Zhenren of the Imperial Thunder sect and Qian Diheng have been brooding over it. I have also reported this matter to all of you, and everyone treated it as a joke that day. Well, now it seems that we were really wrong. The one who sent this message is probably Xiao Hua of the Imperial Thunder sect, the Foundation establishment disciple who was with Li Zongbao of the Utopia faction. All of this is true, but I don't know how they got this news. This is absolutely incredible. Jiang Fian sighed. Why didn't I think of it that day? If I had set up a backup plan back then. Why not? Gu Yan raised his eyebrows. We have already left disciples to guard Sky Patrol City, and the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect and Mo Sang Mountain are also in the city. Even the two nascent soul early-stage masters outside the city are keeping an eye on it. Moreover, the judgment at that time could only be regarded as unfounded and impossible. If this message was sent now, or a while ago, we would naturally understand, and we wouldn't have become a joke. What are you waiting for? Pan Dongmin had already turned around and ordered, "Since we feel confident, let's quickly inform the nascent soul stage masters and mobilize the troops." Yes, and Li Zongbao's matter. Gu Yan didn't dare to neglect and hurriedly got up. If Heping Zhenren knows that just as he said this, he heard the sound of wind above the foothills. A rainbow streaked across the distance and rushed to the sky above the nine-eyed hot spring in the blink of an eye. Oh no, it's the nascent soul stage masters. Gu Yan's cultivation was the highest. He had already sensed it and hurriedly rushed out of the pavilion. Sure enough, where the rainbow landed, a nascent soul middle stage cultivator appeared. It was Yunmingzi from the Changbai sect. At this time, Yunmingzi's face was extremely gloomy. The sword light around his body was produced from time to time, like a dragon swimming around the surface of his body. "Greetings, Martial Uncle Yunmingzi." Gu Yan saw Yunmingzi's expression and knew that something was wrong. He immediately asked while bowing, "Martial Uncle, you came in a hurry. Could it be that Sky Patrol City has fallen into the enemy's hands?" "Oh, you already know the sword cultivator's intention?" Yunmingzi raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise. That's right. Pan Dongmin, Zhu Qinghe, and Jiang Fian had already bowed to Yun Mengzi at this time and hurriedly said, "We have already noticed the abnormality from the recent news, and we're about to inform the disciples to send a message to the masters." Yun Mengzi looked at the four of them, and then at the mini Foundation establishment disciples flying in from outside the mountain. He smiled bitterly and said, "Of course, Sky Patrol City has not fallen into the hands of the Sword Cultivator." Phew, Zhu Qinghe and the other three heaved a long sigh of relief. They looked at each other with a look of relief in their eyes. But Yun Mengzi changed the topic. "All the Sword Cultivator swordsmen have abandoned their targets and madly rushed to Sky Patrol City. There are so many swordsmen attacking Sky Patrol City so openly. We are afraid that Sky Patrol City will fall. It's good that Sky Patrol City has not fallen yet." Jiang Fian smiled and said, "We have already set up a trap near Sky Patrol City. It should be effective. At the very least, the four nascent Soul Realm seniors from the Celestial City, Senior Shuiyu, Imperial Thunder Sect, and Mo Sang Mountain will be able to resist for a while with the help of the Celestial City's formation. When the True Path Sect disciples arrive, we will defeat the Sword Cultivator with the help of the Celestial City's disciples." "Alright, since the martial nephews have already decided, let's hurry up and leave." Yun Mengzi sighed and said, "Looking at the madness of the Sword Cultivator, this battle is already the final blow. We cannot afford to be negligent." Chapter 2936. "Yes, we'll follow Martial Uncle's arrangement." Everyone bowed. Yun Mengzi didn't delay. With a wave of her hand, a rainbow covered the four of them. A rainbow flashed under Yun Mengzi's feet, and several people quickly rushed into the sky and disappeared. As for Jiang Fian's request to send a message to the sects in the country of Xi, hoping that they would send their disciples to fight against the Sword Cultivators and rescue Li Zongbao, and the others from the Sword Cultivators' attack, the four of them had already forgotten about it. After all, their safety compared to the Sky Patrol City was too insignificant. Xiaohua naturally didn't know about this. He was still sitting cross-legged in the quiet room. Right now, it had already been several days since he started recording the cloud-traversing rain summoning technique. Without anyone's guidance, Xiaohua finally recorded the 36 green seal characters into his bones one by one according to the instructions in the soul technique Ziming gave him. Although Xiaohua was unbearably tired, his mental strength was also greatly exhausted. But the harvest was extremely rich. Not only did Xiaohua have a deeper understanding of the green seal characters, but the flexibility of the soul strands were also much better than before. Xiaohua was even confident that if he was given another 10 days, he would absolutely comprehend the green seal characters given to him by Elder Wu. However, just as Xiaohua put away the bone and rested for a few days, a guard called from outside again. Xiaohua didn't even think about it. He immediately removed the capital star array and walked out of the quiet room. He knew that today must be the auspicious day for Ziming to light the soul-extinguishing lamp. He couldn't delay this lantern-burning ceremony. Sure enough, when the dark-skinned guard saw Xiaohua come out, he immediately bowed and greeted him. Similarly, he spoke fluently in the three kingdoms of cultivation respectfully. "Young Master Xiao, tonight is the lantern-burning ceremony of Miss Ziming of the Huta Stockade. This humble one is specially ordered by Elder Wu to invite young master." "Good." Xiaohua nodded. Looking at the sky outside, it was dusk. Presumably, Ziming's lantern-burning ceremony would be held at midnight. "This way, please." The guard bowed and extended his hand, inviting Xiaohua to walk in a direction. "You lead the way." Xiaohua looked at the somewhat gloomy corridor and asked again, "Where are the other senior brothers of this Xiao? Shall we go together?" Reporting to young master, the imperial bodyguard followed Xiaohua's instructions and walked to the front. He bowed slightly and turned his head. "Young Master Li, young Master Xiao, and the others have already left. In order to show our respect to the distinguished guests, Elder Wu instructed us to invite you one by one. Young master, I was the first to arrive. However, because young master was in seclusion, I waited for a while. I believe the other guards have already invited young Master Li and the others over." Xiaohua casually nodded. He followed the guard through the layers of shadows. The dusk gradually became heavier, shrouding the many palaces in Huta village, giving birth to a heavy feeling. Walking in this heavy atmosphere made Xiao Hua feel like he couldn't bear the burden. As he was walking, an old maidservant suddenly appeared from the side of a palace door and blocked the guard's path. The guard was obviously stunned, then immediately bowed. Without waiting for him to speak, that servant girl raised her voice and said, "Xiao Hua, young Master Xiao, my family's G-man has a matter to ask. Young Master Xiao, please follow this humble one." Oh. Xiao Hua raises his eyebrows. He looks at the servant girl from head to toe and says coldly, "Is G-Manda in this Huta stronghold? Or is it Elder Wu?" Naturally it's Elder Wu. The servant girl's face is slightly angry. "Even if Elder Wu is more honorable than my family's G-man, you can't disobey G-man's orders." What a joke. Xiao Hua doesn't want to see G-man at this time. He waves his hand and says, "This Xiao is going to the Dipankara ceremony under Elder Wu's orders. If G-man wants to see this Xiao, please come to the Dipankara ceremony." Impudent. The servant girl is furious. She seems to have never seen someone like Xiao Hua who doesn't put G-man in his eyes. Young Master Xiao at this time. A faint voice comes from the palace behind the servant girl. "Greetings to G-man." The guard hurriedly bows and greets, his face carrying a trace of embarrassment. It's G-man's dignified and irrefutable tone. "Greetings to G-man." Xiao Hua also bows and says, "Forgive this junior for being rude, but this should be Ziming's Dipankara ceremony. Lord G-man and this junior should appear at the ceremony on time. Even if G-man doesn't want to go, this junior can't delay. The Dipankara ceremony is my Huta village's most important ceremony, and it hasn't been held for many years. As G-man, how can this old one be delayed on such an occasion? Actually, if this old one isn't here, this Dipankara ceremony." Hee. G-man says halfway, then changes the topic. "However, it's still early to the Dipankara ceremony. Just like when you went to the Netherworld Eye with Ziyi, you were able to rescue Elder Jilan and find the Netherworld bamboo in this period of time. Can't this old one ask you a few questions?" Hearing G-man mention the Netherworld Eye, it seems to be a threat. Thinking about Ziming and the Dipankara ceremony that is close at hand, Xiao Hua nods and says with a smile, "Since G-man wants to go to the ceremony with this junior in a while, this junior also hopes to listen to senior's teachings. And come in." G-man's voice is faint. "The two of you stay here and guard." "Yes." That maid fiercely glares at Xiao Hua, and the guard also helplessly stands at the side of the hall door. Xiao Hua walks into the hall and sees G-man standing in the middle of the hall. At this time, G-man is dressed in splendid clothes. There are several layers of decorations on her head like a flower crown, and there are many thumb-sized white bones around her neck. Her clothes look very complicated, and there are many layers of strange patterns and tassels all over her body. Xiao Hua can't help but stare blankly at her. Young Master Xiao Ji-man doesn't care about Xiao Hua's gaze, and directly asks, "Which great scholar's disciple are you?" "Great scholar?" Xiao Hua stares blankly, somewhat baffled. "What's a great scholar?" This junior doesn't understand? Ji-man frowns slightly, and says indifferently, "Young Master Xiao, since you are familiar with Ziming, you must have heard her mention it. This old one has a longing for the path of Confucianism, and this shaman stockade also has the legacy of Confucianism. Since there are some changes in your middle dantian, and you even asked this old one for the inheritance of Confucianism, could it be that you are not a disciple of Confucianism?" Xiao Hua suddenly understands. Although he knows that Ji-man has already left the ancestral hall before he asked Elder Wu to search for the seal on his middle dantian, he also believes that even if Ji-man didn't know the secret of the seal on his middle dantian from Elder Wu, she can also know that he is asking Elder Wu for help regarding his middle dantian. From these two aspects, it is normal for Ji-man to infer that he is a Confucianism. However, Xiao Hua naturally has to deny it. Ji-man misunderstands. This junior thought that I was more curious about Confucianism, and in my early years in Shi country's Jinghua city, I saw a descendant of Confucianism, especially when I heard that Ji-man has the inheritance of Confucianism, so I asked for it. As for this junior, I am a genuine disciple of Taoism. Shi country's Jinghua city? G-Man frowns. Which great Confucian's descendant is that? Hee, Lord G-Man, this is Junior's secret. It is not convenient to tell Senior. Xiaohua flatly refuses. Sigh, young Master Xiao. G-Man sighs. Are you still so guarded against this old woman? Senior, what are you talking about? Xiaohua says with a smile. You are the influential figure of Huta's stronghold, second only to one person and above tens of thousands. This junior is only a passerby of Huta's stronghold, completely unrelated to Senior. There is no need to be guarded against. Sigh Xiaohua. G-Man is not satisfied with Xiaohua's explanation and sighs again. This old woman knows that this matter is my fault. I almost sent you, Ziming and the others, into the arms of Huta Great God. However, you should also put yourself in this old woman's shoes. Lu'er is this old woman's legitimate son. He is the candidate for Elder Wu of Huta's stronghold. How can this old woman not be anxious about his death? Back then, when this old woman and Ziming's mother were fighting over G-Man, there were some differences, but Ziming's mother was one step ahead and was chosen by Elder Wu. And this old woman was not chosen. What G-Man did to this old woman that day, there is no need for this old woman to explain in detail. In the words of your Dao sect, the dead are the most important. Even if this old woman said it, you would not believe it. Later on, Ziming's mother entered the arms of Huta Great God. Ziming was too young to succeed G-Man. So this old woman once again took over the position of G-Man. But at that time, the soul-falling lamp had already been bestowed to Ziming by Elder Wu. Although Lu'er had the qualifications to be Elder Wu, this qualifications fell behind Ziming and Ziyi. At that time, Lu'er was extremely sensible. Under this old woman's persuasion, he did not put the position of Elder Wu in his eyes. But what about Ziming? She took G-Man's position as her own. She saw Lu'er as her enemy. Even when Ziyi returned to the arms of Huta Great God, she did not report this matter. She still let Ziyin be ranked after Ziyi, who no longer exists. This old woman already knew about this matter, but this old woman did not point it out. This old woman even tried to cover it up for her. This old woman knew what she was thinking. She wanted to take back the position of G-Man that belonged to her mother. In fact, although this old woman coveted G-Man's position, it was also for the sake of my Huta village. That year, if it was not for Ziming being too young and unable to take over G-Man's position, this old woman would definitely have rejected Elder Wu. This old woman's tolerance time and time again. I did not expect that Ziming would repay kindness with enmity. Xiaohua, if you were in her place and you heard that your family was killed, and this ending was what you had been worried about all this time, how would you react? Facing G-Man's questioning and confession, Xiaohua was silent. That day, G-Man was truly crazy, almost taking the lives of Xiaohua and the others. But today, after hearing G-Man's words, Xiaohua also understood the hardships of being a mother. As the village's G-Man, that's right, this old woman did scold Ziming's mother. But Ziming's mother scolded this old woman 100 times more vicious than that day. Seeing that Xiaohua did not answer, G-Man continued. And this old woman wanted to kill all of you. But that was because this old woman did not know the specific reason. She thought that you were the culprits who killed my Lu'er. Xiaohua, think about it. Even at that time, Ziming did not take out the soul bead. She actually suspected this old woman to that extent. This old woman's heart is still in pain. Chapter 2937. Huta village is the descendant of Huta Great God. Ziming, Ziyi, Ziyan, and a few other juniors have inherited the bloodline of Huta Great God, and their bloodline is very pure. It is not as complicated as the bloodline of Shibai village, and it is not as chaotic as the other shaman villages. In my opinion, since Huta village is in the hands of me and Grand Shaman, we should focus on unity and harmony. We must stick to our familial ties and overcome the most difficult obstacle in Meng Mountains. As for whether Ziming becomes G-Man, or Ziyi becomes Grand Shaman, it doesn't matter. After all, they are the descendant of Huta Great God. Besides, Grand Shaman and G-Man don't have much conflict. When G-Man reached this point, she paused for a moment and continued. Ziming is wary of me because he wants power. Oh, the bloodline of Shibai village is thin? The conflict of shaman villages? Xiaohua was slightly startled. He understood what G-Man was trying to say, but he didn't want to get involved too deeply. He frowned and asked curiously. Humph. G-Man said coldly. If not for the thin bloodline of Hu to great god, how could Xiao Mao gain the respect of the people of Bailu village when he came to Meng Mountains? How could he gain the loyalty of Bailu village's grand shaman and G-Man? Xiao Mao's arrival is really timely. It is like a drop of cold water falling into boiling oil. The chaos of Shibai village is getting more and more disorderly. To be honest with young Master Xiao, when I saw Xiao Mao, I already had the intention to kill him. With his existence, Shibai village will most likely be divided. Is this the reason why you and Grand Shaman didn't want to do anything? Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat, and he said calmly, actually you and Grand Shaman know about Xiao Mao's background. No. G-Man shook her head and said, what I said to Grand Shaman is the truth. We really don't know about Xiao Mao's background. Besides, that killing intent was something I used to maintain the stability of Meng Mountains. Now that I know you are Taoist Xiao Mao, I'm afraid he was sent here by Great God Shibai. Since this is the will of Great God Shibai, why should I care about him? Then Xiaohua glanced at G-Man. He understood that this G-Man was an old woman who placed the safety of Hutu's stronghold, and even Meng Mountains as her #1 priority. Perhaps she had some complaints about Ziming, but she would never act as Ziming thought and kill him ruthlessly. In fact, after knowing the truth behind Ziyan's death, she didn't resent Ziming and Xiao Mao too much. Perhaps because of Ziming's words, Xiaohua had misunderstood her. Of course, Xiaohua also knew that his understanding was only his understanding. The real truth was probably only known to the Hutu god. Following which, Xiaohua asked respectfully, with G-Man's thoughts, what will Xiao Mao do? Oh, do you really want to listen to this old woman's opinion? G-Man asked curiously. Yes, please explain, senior. Xiaohua replied sincerely. It's simple. G-Man said. If you're strong, you'll have the shaman village in your heart. If you're weak, you'll have to be independent. Oh, so that's how it is. Xiaohua finally understood. Of course, since Venerable Wu has promised young Master Xiao, I believe he will have some discussions with Venerable Wu of Shibai Stronghold. Young Master Xiao, what can you do if you wait for Venerable Wu's news? G-Man said again. Thank you, senior. Xiaohua bowed. Then, can you be honest with this old woman now? Which family of Confucian cultivators are you? G-Man finally asked again. Xiaohua smiled bitterly, and told her about his encounter with the descendants of Zhu clan in Jingbua City. After listening to Xiaohua's explanation, G-Man's face was filled with desolation. She sighed and said, according to the records in the inscription on the armor, when Confucian cultivators were flourishing, the Zhu clan was a clan that could stand up to the emperor. But now they have been reduced to such a miserable state because of that talisman. How pitiful. G-Man, you said that this talisman was originally a method of your Meng Mountains. How could it be used to curse the descendants of Confucian cultivators? Xiaohua couldn't understand. The green seal script is the essence of heaven and earth. If it was one of the 12 great gods. G-Man shook her head slightly and said, originally, it could only be used by the descendants of the 12 great gods through the power of their bloodline. However, the heavenly Tao has changed. Soul cultivators are not the only powerful ones. Taoist sects, Buddhist sects, Confucian cultivators, and so on are all rising. Even young Master Xiao is able to use the green seal script, right? If young Master Xiao is the one who uses this talisman, as long as young Master Xiao is not afraid of exhausting his life essence, he can also use it as a curse. Then tell me, how would this old woman know who cursed the descendants of Zhu clan? And this junior understands. Xiaohua bowed and said, actually, with young Master Zhao's benevolence, it suits the righteousness of Confucian cultivators. You should be an excellent successor of Confucian cultivators. G-Man said regretfully. Unfortunately, young Master has already joined Taoist sects. Confucian cultivators are not accepted by Taoist sects. If this old woman passes the legacy of Confucian cultivators to young Master, it will be harming young Master. Moreover, young Master already has the cultivation base of Taoist sects. If young master continues to cultivate Confucian cultivators, he will definitely be distracted. Not only will his cultivation base not improve, it will even cause conflicts and delay young master's growth. It's fine, Xiaohua said with a smile. It's all fate. It's good that young master understands. Ji-man raised her eyes and looked outside the hall. It's already late. Young master, you don't have to leave early, but this old woman has to leave. Today's matter will be remembered in young master's heart. You don't have to tell Zimming a single word. The more you say, the more she feels that this old woman's trick. Hee Ji-man, you're too naive. Seeing this, Xiaohua raised his eyebrows. He knew that this was an extremely good opportunity. He would rather bet on the kindness of the human heart, so he said with a smile. Oh. What do you mean? Ji-man was obviously stunned. Ji-man, please take a look, Xiaohua said as he clapped his hands and took out the rejuvenation pill. He said with a smile. Zimming asked this junior to pass this to Ji-man. Our rejuvenation pill? Ji-man was obviously shocked. Joy appeared on her face, but she immediately smiled bitterly. Young Master Xiao must be joking. This originally belonged to young master. You're helping Zimming to cover up his lie, right? Xiaohua naturally thought that Ji-man was not so easily deceived. His mind quickly turned and he said, Senior, you're wrong. This rejuvenation pill is Junior's, but Junior doesn't have it anymore. This rejuvenation pill was given to Zimming by Junior. Even if you gave it to Zimming, it was because you used the green seal text. Zimming returned this rejuvenation pill to you to replenish your life essence. Ji-man was indeed perceptive and did not hide it. Senior, you're too confident. You were still talking about Zimming earlier. How could you make such a mistake? Xiaohua still said calmly. This rejuvenation pill was given to Junior by Zimming when he entered the Netherworld Eye with Junior. Oh, Ji-man's eyes lit up. When Zimming gave the rejuvenation pill to Xiaohua, Ji-man was not in the ancestral hall. Elder Wu naturally would not tell this to Ji-man. That day, Zimming said clearly that after tonight, there would be no more Zai in this world. What's the use of this rejuvenation pill? Thinking about Ji-man's love for me, I might as well use this rejuvenation pill to exchange for her favor. Xiaohua said word by word. However, this rejuvenation pill, Zimming did not give Junior the Netherworld Eye to Senior. When would that be? Ji-man asked. If Zimming returned to Huta God's embrace because of Zimming's matter, it would be the time for this rejuvenation pill to be given to Ji-man. If Zimming lit up the soul-falling lamp because of Elder Wu, it would also be the time for this rejuvenation pill to be given to Ji-man. Xiaohua cleverly changed Zimming's words and said with a smile. Since today is the time for Zimming to light up the soul-falling lamp, Junior will give this rejuvenation pill to Ji-man according to Zimming's words. This child is just like her mother. Ji-man sighed slightly. Even if she wants to curry favor with others, but she doesn't let others know of her own suffering. And her mouth is also unforgiving. It's good that Ji-man knows, Xiaohua said with a smile. Sometimes it's because we're familiar with each other that we neglect the most precious thing. At the same time, when we think that we're familiar with each other, we always feel that we know each other, so we don't communicate. But in reality, we might have misunderstood each other. Thinking about this, if Ji-man and Zimming were honest with each other, there wouldn't be any misunderstandings. Even if there were Devil Cultivator's possession, there wouldn't even be a chance for Devil Cultivator to take advantage of it. Young Master Xiao is right. Ji-man nodded. This old one is older and thought that blindly enduring would be able to make Zimming understand. It seems like it's all this old one's fault. If there's a mistake, then change it, as long as there's a chance, Xiaohua said again. Don't wait until there's no chance. Even if you want to change it, you won't be able to. Good. This old one understands. This old one also thanks young Master Xiao for reminding me. Ji-man nodded and looked at the rejuvenation pill in Xiaohua's hand. As for this pill, if Ji-man doesn't take it, how can Zimming get rid of the knot in his heart? Xiaohua flicked his hand, and the rejuvenation pill landed in front of Ji-man. Forget it. This is that girl's filial piety. How can this old one not know how to return the favor? Ji-man was a little puzzled in her heart, But the temptation of this rejuvenation pill was too great. She didn't think too much about it, and took the rejuvenation pill and said with a smile, "Ziming's lantern ceremony is about to begin. This old one will leave first. G-Man, please." Xiaohua stepped to the side and let G-Man go first. G-Man walked past Xiaohua and nodded with an elegant smile. When she walked out of the hall, she turned around and said with a smile, "Young Master Xiao, you have to hurry over too. Ziming has been waiting for this moment for a long time." "Yes, this junior understands. I will definitely not let G-Man and Ziming wait for too long." Xiaohua also nodded with a smile. The guards who were waiting outside the palace were a little nervous. They had been thinking about how to report to the old witch if something happened to Xiaohua. But when they saw Xiaohua come out safely, and even G-Man who was walking in front of him was so amiable, they were so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths. As for the servant girl, her eyeballs were about to fall out. She understood in her heart that although G-Man could be considered amiable and approachable, but to treat people like this, it seemed to be the first time she saw it. Although the two of them didn't understand, one of them hurriedly followed G-Man, while the other still led Xiaohua forward with suspicion. These two people, N plus G-Man, seemed to not know that Xiaohua was worried about his gains and losses. Chapter 2938. Yes, after all, Xiaohua had given this rejuvenation pill to G-Man on his own initiative. This was an absolute gamble. Xiaohua was well aware of the effect this pill had on a woman, and the effect it would have on Ziming. The reason why Ziming didn't want to give this pill to G-Man was because he was afraid that G-Man would be filled with vitality and regain her youth, allowing her to sit in the position of G-Man for a longer period of time. In this way, even if Ziming lit up the soul-setting lamp, she would never be able to get the position of G-Man. Since he couldn't get G-Man, wouldn't Ziming's soul-setting lamp be lit in vain? Wouldn't Ziming's years of hard work be wasted in vain? However, the conflict between G-Man and Ziming had been brewing for many years, and now it had reached its peak, and the conflict had officially broken out. In Xiaohua's opinion, if nothing unexpected happened, there would be many more conflicts like this in the future. Not to mention that Ziming, who was determined to get the position of G-Man, would be on guard against and alienate G-Man. Even G-Man, an elder, would also set up a dam in her heart, pushing Ziming away from her concern. And the best time to ease this conflict, to resolve this conflict, was now. The time when everything was not completely clear yet. And the only way to resolve this conflict was for one of them to take a step back. Actually, it might not be just one step, but half a step was enough. Although it was only half a step, G-Man's dignity and her injuries had determined that she would not take a step back, and the young and vigorous Ziming would also find it hard to take a step back. Therefore, Xiaohua had no choice but to take a step back for Ziming. Coincidentally, Ziming's last rejuvenation pill was in Xiaohua's hand, and Xiaohua took it out in a flash of inspiration. "Sai, there are many precious things in this world: power, youth, life, kinship. Any of them are hard to give up. But giving them up doesn't mean losing them. By giving up power, you will get kinship and the stability of Huta's stronghold. If Ziming knew about my painstaking efforts, perhaps he might not blame me, right?" Although Xiaohua was clear about this, and he also hoped that the kinship in G-Man's heart could continue, he was after all not Ziming. Walking in the dark corridor, there was an indescribable feeling in his heart. Looking at the silhouette of the palace, which looked like a huge monster in the night, he sighed in his heart. Although Huta's stronghold had a large number of people, and was one of the strongest powers in Meng Mountains, it was facing many internal and external troubles as well. While Xiaohua was pondering, he followed the guard to the back of the mountain. The back of the mountain was filled with guards. There were spirit beasts flying in the air, and each of the guards was holding a strange lantern. The flame in the lantern emitted a green light that illuminated the entire mountain. Xiaohua understood that the Dipankarapan would be held in the ancestral hall of the Huta stockade. Sure enough, as the guards led Xiaohua through the mountain path, the guards holding lanterns on the mountain path all stared at Xiaohua with unusual vigilance. Even when Xiaohua arrived at the entrance of the ancestral shrine, he still felt countless piercing gazes following him. "Young Master Xiao, please wait a moment." That guard very politely asked Xiaohua to wait, while he himself took out a thumb-sized transparent skull and walked in front of the ancestral shrine's gate. There were already several dozen guards wearing pitch-black armor standing in several rows on both sides of the gate. This was the first time Xiaohua saw this armor. It looked very cumbersome, and it covered the guard's head, face, body, and other parts. Moreover, outside the thick armor, there were tendons as thick as a thumb. The surface of the armor looked like the soul runes that were drawn on the skin of the spirit warriors. Occasionally, a dark green beast head would appear where the tendons were. The guard handed over the skull and whispered a few words to the guard who came to greet him. Then he led the guard to Xiaohua and said with a smile, "Young Master Xiao, I can only escort you up to here. Please follow this palace guard into the ancestral shrine. Venerable Wu should be waiting inside." "Okay, thank you." Xiaohua nodded lightly and expressed his thanks. The palace guard looked at Xiaohua, then looked at the skull in his hand. He waved his hand, indicating Xiaohua to follow him. Then he turned around and walked away. Xiaohua didn't say anything and walked up a few steps. Just as he followed the palace guard up the stairs, there was a burst of noise behind him. A slightly louder voice shouted, "Venerable Wu of Shibai Village has arrived." The steps that were originally filled with people walking up and down suddenly quieted down. Then, everyone hurriedly moved to the sides of the steps. The palace guard who led Xiaohua also stopped and moved to the side. Xiaohua thought for a moment, then followed the crowd and moved away. After standing firm, Xiaohua turned his head to look. He heard the sound of the mountain path. Among the dozen or so burly guards wearing the same pitch-black armor as the palace guard, a thin and tall old man quickly walked over. This old man's skin was yellow, and he was dressed very solemnly. On his white bearded face, there was a pair of thin and long eyes that were slightly narrowed. The old man's face was also thin and long. His thin lips were tightly shut, and the wrinkles that seemed to have been carved by a knife covered his cheeks and forehead. A kind of coldness, calmness, and pressure was emitted from this old man's body. No one dared to look at him, let alone approach him. Following the old man's silent footsteps and the palace guard's heavy footsteps, everyone who passed by bowed and saluted, their faces filled with extreme respect. The old man acted as if he didn't hear this, and his eyelids didn't even move, until he walked up the steps of the Ho-Tu village's ancestral temple. At this time, there were more than 10 people standing respectfully on the steps. All of the people of Ho-Tu village bowed and saluted. Even the palace guard wearing pitch-black armor raised his right arm, as if he was saluting. Only Xiaohua stood there with his arms folded, indifferently looking at the venerable Wu. Xiaohua was originally thin and tall, and when he stood next to the palace guard, he was half a head taller than the palace guard. Now that everyone was saluting, he was like a crane in a flock of chickens. Even if the venerable Wu of Shibai Village didn't want to see it, he had no choice but to see it clearly. Oh, much to Xiaohua's surprise, the venerable Wu of Shibai Village made a strange sound from his throat. His narrowed eyes slightly raised, and 2 balls of ghostly green light flashed out from the venerable Wu's eyes. Suddenly, Xiaohua felt his entire body was covered by a kind of ice. An incomparably heavy and extreme coldness came from his skin, and from the bottom of his heart at the same time. Hiss! Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. The protective golden light around his body immediately flourished, wanting to disperse the coldness. However, after the protective golden light appeared, the coldness on the surface of Xiaohua's body seemed to be covered, and there was some faint warmth. However, the coldness in his heart became even more intense, as if it was about to freeze his blood vessels. Damn it, the venerable Wu of Shibai Village indeed lives up to his reputation. Xiaohua bitterly smiled. Xiaomao, this guy is a bit troublesome. After bitterly smiling, Xiaohua simply didn't resist, and just stood there quietly. The venerable Wu of Shibai Village also seemed to be startled. He didn't expect that Xiaohua would give up resisting when he tried just now. If it was someone else, perhaps they would have let go. After all, Xiaohua was a junior, and this was the ancestral shrine of the Huta village. Unfortunately, the venerable Wu of Shibai Village was only startled for a moment, and then a trace of a cold smile hung on the corner of his mouth. An indescribable heartbeat sound came from Xiaohua's ears. Thump, thump. Thump. This heartbeat sound was extremely slow, as if there was a strange suction force. Xiaohua felt this sound become increasingly louder, surrounding his entire body, and his own heartbeat also slowed along with this sound. The power of blood vessels. Xiaohua suddenly came to a realization. This old bastard. The instant Xiaohua came to a realization. Thump, 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 the sound in his heart suddenly sped up, and Xiaohua suddenly felt his entire body throbbing. Moreover, at the end of his blood vessels, his entire heart seemed to be about to burst. This is bad. Xiaohua hurriedly circulated his magic power, and just as he was about to do his best to resist, he heard a faint voice say, "Jimin, this is just a junior cultivator of the Dao sect. Why are you willing to give up your face and make things difficult for him?" Immediately, a faint dark green brilliance flashed around Xiaohua's body, and all the coldness and sound disappeared, returning to the previous silence. This old man naturally doesn't want to make things difficult for a junior, but there are some juniors who overestimate themselves and want to make things difficult for this old man. Jianji, don't you think this old man should let them know that the people of Meng Mountain aren't easy to bully and fool? The Venerable Wu of Shibai village raised his eyes, looked at the Venerable Wu of Huta village who appeared on the stairs, and coldly snorted and said, "The matters of the juniors will naturally be settled by the juniors. I'm already old, so why should I care so much?" The Venerable Wu of Huta village answered indifferently, and then glanced at Xiaohua, and changed the topic, saying in an extremely serious tone, "Furthermore, this young friend Xiao is a distinguished guest of our Huta village, not to mention our Huta village, even if it's within the borders of Meng Mountain. If anyone dares to make things difficult for young friend Xiao, it's the same as going against our Huta village." "Oh." The Venerable Wu of Shibai village frowned and coldly said, "Jianji, are you going against our Shibai village? You know very well the matters of your Shibai village. This old man is too lazy to ask." The Venerable Wu of Huta village waved his hand and said, "This young friend Xiao has nothing to do with your Shibai village. If anyone dares to touch him, even the Shaman King won't allow it." "Ah." The Venerable Wu of Shibai village was startled, and opened his eyes. His cold gaze swept over Xiaohua's body, and he looked very shocked. "Jimin, why aren't you coming in? Other than Tanja and you, everyone else has already arrived. This is the grand meeting of the Huta village, and you're the closest one, yet you're the last one to arrive?" While they were talking, a tall old man appeared next to the Venerable Wu of Huta village, and shouted loudly. The Venerable Wu of Shibai village glanced at him, then coldly looked at Xiaohua, and quickly walked up the stairs. Caw, a beast's roar resounded through the sky from afar, and then the back mountain of Huta village, which was already cold, was suddenly filled with a fierce wind. A dark shadow, like a shooting star, rushed over from afar, and in just a blink of an eye, it flew above everyone's head. Chapter 2939. Hiss, how can its flying speed be so fast? Seeing that the black shadow's speed had far surpassed his own, Xiaohua's eyes narrowed as he was shocked. When the black shadow landed on the steps of the ancestral temple, Xiaohua could clearly see that the black shadow was a bird beast with 4 wings on its back. Not only did this bird beast have 4 wings, but it also had 3 claws under its abdomen and chest. On top of its head, there was a phoenix coronet. Damn it, I'm late again. Without waiting for this strange bird beast to stop, an old man who was as thin as a bamboo pole jumped down from the back of the bird beast. His body swayed slightly, and in the fierce wind, he flashed to the side of Huta village's elder Wu. "You're Dijiang village's elder Wu, so you're naturally good at speed. Even if you're late, can't you just fly a little faster?" The tall old man mocked. "So, you're always late. Minghua, I have something to do this time." Dijiang village's elder Wu argued. "My Meng Mountain is in such a dangerous situation today, of course I have to rack my brains to think of a way." Minghua? Although these few elders were speaking in the language of Meng Mountain, Xiaohua could not understand them. However, when this elder Wu uttered the words Minghua, it sounded very similar to the name Qieshio when Xiaohua heard it. Xiaohua could not help but shudder in his heart. Could it be? This old man is the Minghua that the 10,000 Demon Realms Empress is looking for? Xiaohua looked at the tall elder Wu on the steps in the distance, and the white-haired Elder Wu's appearance. No matter how hard he tried, he could not put him together with the Empress's peerless appearance. It was like the feeling of cow dung and fresh flowers. Then several people said a few more words and entered the ancestral temple. When the figures of several people disappeared, everyone on the steps let out a long breath and slowly moved. When Xiaohua followed the palace guard into the ancestral temple, he saw Li Zongbao, Fairy Hongxia, and the others standing in a corner not far from the door. Xiaohua did not need the palace guard to lead him and walked over. But just as Xiaohua took 2 steps, the palace guard behind him anxiously said, "Young Master Xiao, your position is not here." "Oh, where is it?" Xiaohua turned around and asked curiously. The palace guard glanced at the skeleton with his sole consciousness and pointed to the top of the ancestral hall. He smiled apologetically and said, "Young Master Zhao's position is just above the 11 Grand Shaman Elders." "No need, I'll just stay here." Xiaohua looked at the Taoist robe on his body and shook his head. At this moment, he finally understood why so many soul warriors had been staring at him. This lowly one does not dare to disobey Elder Wu's orders. "Young Master Xiao, please proceed." How could the palace guard let him do as he pleased? "Go and tell Elder Wu." Xiaohua said indifferently, "Since I have the qualifications to stand there, I can naturally stand here as well." Seeing that Xiaohua wasn't going, the palace guard could only leave and report to Elder Wu. Xiaohua ignored him and walked towards Fairy Hongxia and the others. Big Brother, without waiting for Xiaohua to approach, Xiao Mao waved his hand with a smile. "What took you so long?" Fairy Hongxia grumbled. "We've been waiting for so long and thought that something had happened to you." "Sigh, from what the guard said, we've only just arrived." Xiaohua sighed. "However, I just met Ji-Man outside the palace." "Oh, what for?" Fairy Hongxia's face tightened as she hurriedly asked. Nothing. Xiaohua knew that everyone was like him and had some preconceived ideas about Ji-Man. He waved his hand and said, "She only asked about Ziyan and Ziming. She didn't make things difficult for me. Furthermore, this Ji-Man is really pitiful." Unfortunately, before he could finish, Fairy Hongxia said coldly, "A pitiful person must have a hateful side." This Xiaohua was speechless. What? Am I wrong? If not for her indulgence towards Ziyan, if not for her rejection of Ziming, would Empress Earth Stronghold have fallen to such a state? Fairy Hongxia retorted, "Don't look at how she cares for Ziming on the surface and gives in to him in everything. She's actually retreating in order to advance. Once she catches hold of Ziming's weakness like before, she'll definitely kill Ziming." "Alright. Just pretend I didn't say anything." Xiaohua was speechless. After all, everyone had their own judgment. He only hoped that his judgment wasn't too outrageous. Ignoring Fairy Hongxia's reproach, Xiaohua looked at the entire ancestral hall. Today was different from the last time. There weren't many people in the ancestral hall today, but they were all rather old. Most of them were Wu Lao. Furthermore, these Wu Lao were divided into 3 groups, clearly separated. The first group was the Wu Lao from the 12 main strongholds. They stood in front of the statue of Empress Earth Great God, occupying a large area. Behind them was the second group, close to 200 people. These 200 people were divided into 2 groups, standing on the left and right sides of the statue. They should be the Wu Lao from the 99 upper strongholds of Empress Earth Stronghold and Shibai Stronghold. Lastly was the third group. They were also divided into 2 groups, following behind the 99 upper strongholds. Each group had about 300 people. They should be the Wu Lao from the 360 lower strongholds. Xiaohua looked around. There were many Wu Lao here, and they all looked similar. He really couldn't differentiate the Wu Lao from the Bai and stronghold that he first met. Ziming doesn't seem to be in the ancestral hall? Xiaohua looked around for a moment, then suddenly realized something. Sure enough, the surroundings of the statue were empty, and there wasn't any trace of people. No, Ji-Man isn't here either? She should have come a long time ago. Ziming is the main character of tonight's lantern burning ceremony, and Ji-Man is second only to the Wu Lao in Empress Earth Village. How could she not be here? As he thought about this, Xiaohua focused his gaze on the left side of the statue, trying to find some clues. However, what he saw was still empty. Now above the ancestral hall, the Wu Lao from the 12 main strongholds of Ming Mountain were gathered. Any one of them was an existence that Xiaohua looked up to. How could Xiaohua dare to release his Buddha's consciousness? After looking around, Xiaohua gave up and turned his gaze to the 12 Wu Lao who were whispering to each other. Among the 12 Wu Lao, other than the Wu Lao from Empress Earth Village who looked young, there were 3 others who were also abnormally young. However, these 3 people were facing Xiaohua from the side, so Xiaohua couldn't see their faces. In particular, the Wu Lao from Xianming Village that Xiaohua saw outside the ancestral hall seemed to have the name Minghua. His body was really big, and he was standing at the outermost area blocking the other Wu Lao. Even if Xiaohua wanted to see the faces of these Wu Lao, he couldn't. However, occasionally, from the side of Wu Lao's body, Xiaohua could still see the back or side of those Wu Lao. They all seemed to look a little strange. There was even a Wu Lao who had a 3rd arm growing out from his right arm. Tiske. It's really a strange phenomenon. Xiaohua blinked. Just as he was about to withdraw his gaze, Wu Lao Minghua raised his arm and moved away from the Wu Lao who had 3 arms. Coincidentally, the cloth that the Wu Lao was wearing on his head was suddenly lifted up. Under the cloth, a ferocious ghost face was revealed. His eyes, which looked like bloody holes, met Xiaohua's gaze. His Xiaohua was shocked, and all the hair on his body stood up. If he saw the ghost face on a normal day, he might not be afraid. However, the sudden appearance of the ghost face behind the Wu Lao's head and under the cloth was completely out of his expectations. Fortunately, the cloth seemed to have been brought up by the mysterious Netherfort's Elder Wu when he swayed. As the mysterious Netherfort's Elder Wu lowered his arm, the cloth fell again and covered the ghost face behind the Elder Wu's head. Furthermore, the mysterious Netherfort's Elder Wu's figure completely covered the Elder Wu. Damn it, who are these Wu Lao of Ming Mountains? Xiaohua thought to himself with lingering fear. What do these so-called 12 great gods look like? Could they all be? Thinking up to here, Xiaohua suddenly had a kind of enlightenment. I understand now. These 12 great gods. Could they be related to the ancient spirit beasts? These people in Ming Mountains are the descendants of those spirit beasts, just like how there are many cultivators with spirit beasts bloodlines in the 3 kingdoms of cultivation. Furthermore, doesn't Fairy Wuxia have the bloodline of the Ice Phoenix? Isn't the ancestral shrine of the Kai clan also in Ming Mountains? However, these 12 spirit beasts are too powerful. Oh, not necessarily. They are probably similar to Fairy Wuxia's ancestor, the Ice Phoenix? Otherwise, the ancestral shrine of the Kai clan wouldn't be in Ming Mountains. Perhaps the Kai clan couldn't establish themselves in Ming Mountains, so they moved from Ming Mountains to my Dao Sec's country of Xi. Hee, what a pity. If the Kai clan was also in Ming Mountains, I would also be able to become a Fu man. Thinking of Fu man, Xiaohua's heart was moved. Where did Yi go? Doesn't he want to kill Xiao Mao? Now that Xiao Mao's identity is still unknown, it's the best opportunity for him to strike. Once Xiao Mao's identity is recognized by the shaman of Shibai village, what chance would he have? That's not right. I'm afraid Yi Yu has already said something to the shaman of Shibai village? Xiaohua frowned again. Otherwise, why would the shaman have a problem with me before entering the ancestral shrine? Why would he block so many people in front of the ancestral shrine of Hotu village and attack me? Was he going to attack yours truly? Or will he attack Xiao Mao? The more Xiaohua thought about it, the more uneasy he felt. Looking at Xiao Mao's face, which was filled with excitement and expectation, he couldn't help but feel worried. While Xiaohua's thoughts were running wild, another hour of waiting had passed. The entire ancestral shrine was noisy. Not only were the 12 great shaman talking, but many other shaman were also whispering to each other. This Dipankara ceremony was indeed rare. Suddenly, a thunderous sound came from outside the ancestral hall. The hall, which was originally quiet and noisy, immediately quieted down. Even the 12 great shaman who had gathered together to discuss hurriedly dispersed, and stood in their respective positions. Chapter 2940. Elder Wu of Huta village turned around and floated up into the sky. He gave the crowd a glance and said, "Elders of Huta village, welcome to Huta village. Welcome to the rare Dipankara ceremony of Hutta village. As you all know, Hutta village hasn't held a Dipankara ceremony for several tens of thousands of years. If we follow the teachings of our ancestors, none of the G-man of Hutta village can be called G-man. Ming Mountains is the sacred mountain of the 12 great gods, and also the place where the descendants of our great gods live and reproduce. For thousands of years, countless storms have washed over Ming Mountains, but we have always stood on the peak of Ming Mountains, and never backed down. In order to continue the bloodline of the 12 great gods, it is unavoidable for us to be at death's door, unavoidable for us to panic, and unavoidable for us to lose our confidence. However, we are after all the descendants of the great gods, and we are not the same as mortals. The great gods have always entrusted us with their hands. Although there is no Dipankara ceremony, the Dipankara ceremony has always existed in our hearts. Although G-man of Hutta village is not the rightful G-man, in the hands of the great gods, she is still the rightful G-man. And now, under the order of the great god Huttu, the soul-falling lamp of Hutta village has been repaired. From now on, when the G-man is confirmed, we can hold the Dipankara ceremony again. G-man of Hutta village can now carry out the order of the great god Huttu. As Elder Wu's voice echoed out, the entire ancestral hall was boiling with excitement. Not only were the elders of Hutta village chanting in some unknown language, even the elders of Hutta village had gone crazy, as each of them was chanting the grace of the 12 great gods. Looking at the boiling scene, the young Elder Wu of Hutta village descended from the sky and began chanting in some unknown language, while his body began dancing slowly. The 11 elders of Hutta village standing behind Elder Wu dared not to be negligent. Their faces were filled with solemnity and longing, while they were chanting the same language, and their bodies were dancing together with the movements of Elder Wu of Hutta village. When the 12 elders of Hutta village moved, the other elders of Hutta village dared not to wait any longer. Their cheering stopped immediately. They began chanting in the same language. The entire ancestral hall was filled with an extremely solemn and pious voice. Strands of dark green light mixed with strands of golden light began to gather around the statue of the deity. There were even some dark green lights coming from the outside of the ancestral hall. Clearly, all of the soul warriors and natives of the Backearth Palace were worshipping the deity statue at the same time. Not only that, but there were also some dark green lights coming from outside the ancestral hall. Clearly, all of the soul warriors and natives of the Backearth Palace were worshipping the deity statue. At first, the light was like a small stream, but after the meal, it was like a tidal wave, filling the entire ancestral hall and covering the statue of the god. His power of faith? Xiao Hua saw the green brilliance and the faint golden threads, and couldn't help but guess. Xiao Hua and the others couldn't hear what the old shaman of the Hutta village said earlier in the shaman language. Xiao Hua wanted Xiao Mao to explain, but when he saw that Xiao Mao had the same longing expression as the other old shamans, Xiao Hua swallowed his words. However, even though Xiao Hua didn't understand what the old shaman of the Hutta village was saying, he could roughly guess from the old shaman's expression and the reactions of the surrounding elders of Hutta village. As time passed, the brilliance became even more numerous, as if it was real. However, the golden threads in the brilliance became fewer and fewer, almost invisible. Gugajiji. Suddenly, the old shaman of the Hutta village let out a hysterical roar and jumped up from the ground. Then, the sound from his mouth changed greatly, becoming extremely loud and resounding. His body danced crazily in the air. However, the shaman language of praise in the entire hall still maintained the same rhythm as before, neither fast nor slow. As the old shaman of the Hutta village danced, a layer of blood-red light appeared around his body. This blood-red light floated from the surface of his body, just like the true blood dharma body of a disciple of a cultivation family. It gradually condensed into the image of the Hutta god in the air. This dharma body was so clear that it was as if the hair on the great god's body could be seen. Moreover, a majestic and supreme aura gradually emerged from the dharma body. Ayo! The dharma body suddenly swung its snake tail and let out a roar that caused the hearts of others to tremble. At the place where this roar fell, a deep sound was immediately produced. In front of the statue of the Hutta god, more than 10 jade skeletons appeared. In the middle of these skeletons, Ziming and Ji-man, who were dressed in splendid attire, also appeared. At this time, Ziming was kneeling on the ground with his hands held in front of his eyes in an extremely sincere manner. His hands were like blooming lilies as he held the soulfall lamp. Ji-man from the Huta village didn't kneel. Instead, she stood to the side with her waist slightly bent. However, her hands were also holding a small bone staff in her right hand. Xiao Hua, Li Zongbao, and Red Dawn Fairy stood at the back with a trace of surprise on their faces as they looked at everything in front of them. In the ancestral shrine, everyone was dancing. Many of these elders had dark skin, and their clothes were also strange. If they were to be described as a group of demons dancing, it wouldn't be more appropriate. Looking at Xiao Mao, he seemed to be dancing on his own without anyone teaching him. Moreover, there was also a faint green light coming out from between his eyebrows and converging into the current in the ancestral shrine. Caw 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 caw, the Huta village's elder Wu suddenly stopped flying, and the sound from his mouth grew louder. The Dharmakaya slowly flew toward the statue along with the seemingly solid green stream. Seeing the two extremely similar figures approaching, the Huta village's elder Wu's body fell to the ground like a meteor, and he prostrated himself deeply in front of the statue. At the same time, all the other elders stopped dancing and prostrated themselves on the ground at the same time. Boom! A faint roar sounded and the Huta village elder rushed into the statue of the Huta great god. The statue of the deity instantly emitted an extremely resplendent green light. Moreover, the 7 hands behind the statue emitted a faint black aura. As soon as the green light and black gas appeared, the green light in the ancestral shrine mixed with faint golden threads rushed into the statue like a swarm of bees. The entire statue let out a strange sound. This sound was almost exactly the same as the Huta village elders chanting of the Huta village elder. Woo-woo-woo, when the green light in the ancestral shrine completely disappeared, a shrill ghost-like wail was clearly emitted from the god statue. A feeling comparable to a huge boulder pressing down on one's head instantly spread out from the god statue. Xiao Hua, Li Zongbao, and Fairy Hongxia, who had been standing quietly and watching everything in the ancestral shrine, had no strength to resist at all in the face of this heavy pressure. They were immediately overturned and pressed down on the ground. This Xiao Hua turned pale with fright. The golden light around his body flashed chaotically. Unfortunately, whether it was his magic power or strength, it couldn't be compared to this seemingly unparalleled heavy pressure. Looking at the statue again, the Huta village elder's Dharma body was also squeezed out and returned to the elder's body in an extremely sorry state. Furthermore, as Elder Wu's celestial body appeared, a cold, barbaric, and merciless aura appeared from the deity statue. The moment this aura was released, it immediately filled the entire ancestral hall. Moreover, it was as vast as the sea of smoke as it enveloped the entire Huta stockade. Ayo! The strange thing was that Ziming and Ji-man were pressed down by the heavy pressure. The soul-falling lamp in Ziming's hand flew up, and a terrifying aura rushed out from the soul-falling lamp. The 3-headed black hound in the spirit treasure immediately appeared, and even opened its mouth to roar. Ji, just as Xiao Hua raised his head with difficulty, the statue that was originally an inanimate object suddenly let out a cryptic, hard to understand and rare syllable. It seemed to be green seal script, but also seemed to not be green seal script. Following this syllable, the 3-headed black hound's body immediately emitted an intense green light. A kind of heart-trembling fluctuation came from the soul-falling lamp. Pooh! It was also at this time that Ziming, who was lying on the ground, opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. It really landed in midair. The blood essence instantly turned into a phantom image of the Hutu great god. When the 3-headed black hound saw this phantom image, it roared again. One of the beast heads opened slightly, and the phantom image entered it like a stream of light. Swoosh! Following the entrance of the phantom image, countless ghost wails and wolf howls came out from the void all around. Furthermore, countless of light and shadow rushed into the ancestral shrine from all directions. All of the flames in the entire Hutu stronghold disappeared at this moment. Suddenly, a jade-colored flame was born from the 3-headed black hound's head. Once the flame was born, it immediately lit up the entire ancestral shrine. Xiao Hua could not help but close his eyes. Even so, the jade-green flame still penetrated Xiaohua's mind, and even his soul. Waves of shock pulsed along with the flickering of the flames. It was as if the flames could see through the entire world, illuminating everyone's soul. See, Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air. This spirit treasure, isn't it too powerful? Just as this thought appeared in Xiaohua's mind, the flame immediately retracted. Furthermore, the phantom image of the three-headed black hound also entered the fallen soul lamp. The entire ancestral shrine sunk into an indescribable darkness. Only the brilliance of the fallen soul lamp was reflected in everyone's eyes. Huff! Another sound like an old man gasping for breath came out from the darkness. Xiaohua suddenly felt his body become lighter. Furthermore, that frightening aura also disappeared like a torrent. Wawawa. Yiyu! Just as Xiaohua was about to stand up, countless shaman language once again emerged from within the ancestral temple. Streaks of green light once again appeared within the ancestral temple. In front of Xiaohua, the hundreds and thousands of shaman elders once again began to dance with tears streaming down their faces. The atmosphere was even crazier than before. Xiaohua slowly stood up amidst this jubilation. His heart was extremely puzzled. His eyes also flashed with fear as he looked at the god statue in the middle of the green light. Chapter 2941. That aura. Does it belong to Huta Great God? Why is it so vast? What is that pressure? Is it pressure? Is human strength like an ant in front of this pressure? If all of this belongs to Huta Great God, then where is he? How did he come into this statue? In front of this aura, let alone a nascent soul cultivator, even a divinity separation cultivator, or a body fusion cultivator. I'm afraid they are no match for it. If I want to fight against this aura, I have to cultivate more. Poor Xiaohua. He could only imagine a divinity separation cultivator. He didn't even know what a body fusion cultivator was. How could he compare the aura of this statue to a body fusion cultivator? Perhaps he would only know such a superficial thing after he cultivated to the body fusion level. In the ancestral shrine, whether it was the descendants of Huta Great God, or the other 11 great gods, all of them were dancing with tears streaming down their faces. They had always been proud of the bloodline of the great gods. Although the Taoist cultivators looked down on them, and thought that they were uncivilized barbarians, they knew very well that in terms of inheritance, they were not much worse than the Taoist cultivators. However, they had never thought about where the bloodline they were so proud of came from. Or perhaps, they had thought about it before, but they had always relied on and revered this kind of power, and it was impossible for them to have a rebellious heart. It was also impossible for them to be as curious as Xiaohua and think so much, even thinking about how to resist this aura. It had to be said that sometimes success or failure didn't lie in cultivation or talent, but in the starting point, in the vision, in dreams. As a human, whether it was a mortal, a cultivator, or a swordsman, as long as they had dreams, their lives would be romantic and they would never be lonely. After a full hour, the entire ancestral shrine calmed down again. The noisy and crazy aura still lingered in the ancestral shrine. Elders The Elder Wu of Huta village stood in front of the crowd. His ruddy face was extremely pale. It was obvious that he was extremely weak. However, what didn't match his weakness was the ecstasy and excitement in his eyes. The Elder Wu waved his hand and said loudly, Huta Great God didn't forget his people. After tens of thousands of years, he still came to Meng Mountains under our devotion. He is like this, and so are the other 11 great gods. Therefore we should firmly believe that no matter what happens in Meng Mountains, no matter what difficulties we encounter, we will be able to face them and overcome them with ease. Then Old Wu waved his hand, and the lost soul lamp that was floating in the air slowly fell into his hand. At this time, the lost soul lamp had returned to normal. It was almost exactly the same as when Xiaohua first saw it. The only difference was that the bean-like flame on the lost soul lamp was like an emerald gem, sparkling and translucent, and did not move at all. Huta villages which Elder Jianji, under the oracle of Huta God, I bestow the soul-falling lamp to the god's descendant, Ziming. Let her take charge of our Huta village's soul treasure in preparation for the position of Ji-Man. Although Xiaohua couldn't understand what he was saying, Xiao Mao tactfully explained to Xiao Hua and the others at the side. Boy obeys old Wu's order. Ziming drifted to Grandmaster Wu's side, knelt down on the ground, raised his hands high above his head and said respectfully, "With the soulfall lamp as my life, I will accompany it at all times, and I will comprehend the oracle of the great god Hutu. I will keep the stability of Huta village, and the safety of Meng Mountains in my heart." Old Wu's face revealed a kind smile, and he gently placed the lost soul lamp in Ziming's hand. Ziming slowly rose to his feet, his face filled with pride and pride. Good. As Ziming held the lost soul lamp in his hand and walked to the side, Old Wu of Huta village said in a loud voice, "Fellow Old Wu, today is the burning lamp ceremony of our Huta village, and in this grand occasion, I have an important announcement to make." Elder Wu, just as everyone was slightly stunned and waiting for Elder Wu to reveal the truth, Ji-Man from the Huta stronghold took a step forward and said with a smile, "I also have a small piece of news that I would like to announce. I hope Elder Wu can forgive me for being rash." "Oh, what do you want?" Elder Wu furrowed his brows, clearly unhappy. However, Ji-Man didn't care. She glanced at Ziming and smiled. Ziming, who was holding the lost soul lamp in his hand, felt his heart tighten, and an unnatural expression appeared on his face. He didn't know what Ji-Man was going to do. Fellow Old Wu Ji-Man of Huta village said in a clear voice, "Today is the ceremony of our Huta village, and also Ziming's day. As Ji-Man of Huta village, I am happy for her from the bottom of my heart. Everyone knows that when the previous Ji-Man returned to the great god's embrace, Ziming was a baby boy and couldn't take over the position of Ji-Man. It was me who took over the position for her. Now Ziming finally lit the lost soul lamp and completed the test of the Huta great god. She is the real Ji-Man. Just now, when Huta god descended, I suddenly understood that I was just sent by Huta god to lead the way for Ziming." Ah! Not only was Elder Wu surprised, even Ziming turned pale with fright. They had never imagined that Ji-Man would actually say something like that. Especially Xiao Hua. After Xiao Mao's explanation, he was also stunned. How is this possible? But, it's just a rejuvenation pill. This Ji-Man, how could she give the position of Ji-Man to Ziming? Even if the rejuvenation pill is important, but, if it doesn't exist today or tomorrow, who knows if it will exist in the future? As Ji-Man, to obtain the rejuvenation pill, wouldn't it be harder than ascending to the heavens? This was truly a little strange. Could it be that the missing rejuvenation pill? Ji-Man. Old Wu whispered. This matter, Ji-Man Ziming was also used to modestly declining. Boy is still young, not enough to intimidate everyone, not enough to sit on the position of Ji-Man. Old Wu, when Huta great god descended just now, I was already enlightened. Forgive me for being a little willful, but I have already decided, 10 years later, I will give the position of Ji-Man to Ziming. Ji-Man said seriously, I will tell all the Old Wu about this at Ziming's lantern ceremony. Please be my witness. 10 years? Old Wu pondered for a moment. Looking at Ji-Man's expression, she didn't seem to be faking it, so he nodded slightly and said to the 11 Old Wu of the shaman villages, Everyone, although this is an internal matter of my Huta village, since everyone is here, how about you be my witness? Good. The tall Old Wu of Xianming village clapped his hands and praised. Although our 12 shaman villages have always valued bloodline above all, we are all descendants of great gods. It's inevitable that there will be some conflicts and grudges when fighting for the position of Old Wu, and Ji-Man. Ji-Man's actions make me feel gratified. I will be your witness. Immediately, several people clapped their hands and cheered. Ziming would still hesitate if he were to hand over Ji-Man's position to him now. After all, he wasn't able to convince the masses, and it would be difficult for him to take over the position. Who knew, Ji-Man might even do something to him. But when he heard that Ji-Man would give the position of Ji-Man 10 years later, it was giving him time to grow his wings. Only now did Ziming know that Ji-Man truly wanted to return the position of Ji-Man to him. Ji-Man. Ziming called out softly. That feeling was like when she brought Xiao Hua to Huixian Pavilion that day. That voice was like Ziming's childish voice calling out. Boy, as he spoke, Ziming choked a little and didn't know how to continue. Ji-Man also smiled and nodded lightly. A ball of warmth appeared in her heart. This was a feeling she hadn't felt since Ziyan's death. Perhaps it's true? Xiaohua couldn't be sure if Ji-man's abdication was related to the rejuvenation pill. When old Wu saw Ji-man give the position of Ji-man to Ziming in front of so many people, he was also overjoyed. He understood the conflict between Ziming and Ji-man better than Xiaohua. As the saying goes, if the family is harmonious, everything will prosper. With the conflict between Ziming and Ji-man, how could the Huta village be stable? Even if Ziming couldn't directly go against Ji-man, he couldn't resist the temptation of some small fries. Or, even if Ziming and Ji-man weren't enemies, it was obvious that many people wanted to choose their own direction. Would they follow Ziming? Or would they follow Ji-man? This could easily form many undercurrents in the Huta village. It could be said that Ziyan's death, the invasion of the demon dwellers, was also related to this conflict. Although the two of them hadn't completely reconciled, Ji-man's concession had made this conflict gradually fade and disappear. It was believed that the Huta village 10 years later would be completely different from the Huta village today. Good, old Wu raised his eyebrows and said. This old man thought that today was my Huta village's double happiness. But I didn't expect it to be 3. I really have to thank Huta great God. Old man Jianji, what's your third happiness? Hurry up and tell me. A vulgar voice shouted. Could it be that you have another little old Wu? He old Wu of Huta village wasn't angry. He laughed and said, this is the third happiness? It's the biggest happiness today. Not only is it a happiness for my Huta village, but it's also a happiness for my Ming mountain. Oh. Old Wu of Xianming village suddenly realized something and said anxiously, Jianji, are you talking about the Shaman King? Ha ha ha, that's right, that's right. Old Wu of Huta village laughed and said, the Shaman King summoned us and dismissed us without waiting for the result of the discussion. If it weren't for this great happiness for my Huta village, wouldn't his God-connecting technique be useless? Hurry, hurry, old Wu of Xianming village was anxious. Jianji, hurry up and tell us the reason. I've invited great God Xianming for this matter, but I didn't expect that the root of this problem is with great God Hutu. Everyone please wait. Old Wu nodded with a smile and said to Ziming, Ziming, tell the seniors about the millet seed. Chapter 2942. Yes, this boy knows. Ziming gracefully rose to his feet and put away the lamp of lost soul. Then he reached his hand into his bosom and took out a storage bag. After opening it, he took out a handful of millet seeds and said, Dear Magi, please know that these are the millet seeds sent by the great deity Hutu from the QC. They are completely different from the millet seeds we have in Ming Mountains. Not only are they not afraid of drought, they also grow very fast and can be harvested many times a year. How is that possible? The elder of Xianming village waved his hand, and a few millet seeds fell into his hand. After taking a closer look, he still couldn't believe it and said, These are just ordinary millet seeds. I can recognize them clearly. I've even studied them carefully for the sake of millet seeds. Please wait a moment, Elder Wu, Ziming said with a smile. The effect of these millet seeds has been tested by Kueha village, a subordinate of Shibai village. I'd like to ask Elder Wu to explain it to you. As he was speaking, the Elder Wu of Kueha village walked out from the crowd in a panic. He was only one of the 360 senior magi in the Shibai village, and had an extremely low social status. Normally, he didn't even have the chance to meet the senior magi of the Shibai village, not to mention meeting the senior magi of the 12 main villages. Greetings, Grand Elder Wu. I'm Kiji. The Elder Wu of Shibai village, who didn't even mention his name when he met Xiaomao, finally announced his name and bowed to the 12 Grand Elder Wu. You little kid. Why are you so polite? Tell me, are these millet seeds as Ziming said? The Elder Wu of Xianming village waved his hand impatiently. Yes, Grand Elder Wu. The Elder Wu of Baiyan village said hastily. I've planted them twice, and each time, I've harvested a lot of millet seeds. Not only is the harvest 30% more than the previous one, the harvested millet seeds can also withstand drought and ripen early. Haha. Seeing that someone had already tried it, the other 10 Grand Elder Wu's faces were filled with wild joy. Only the elder Wu of Shibai village had a gloomy expression. Ziming, is this a storage bag? The elder Wu, who had 3 arms and a face hidden behind a square cloth, was stunned when he saw the storage bag in Ziming's hand. That's right, Grand Magus Elder, Ziming said with a smile. How can the people of Meng Mountains travel to QC so easily? It was sent here by the Dao sect cultivators under the guidance of the Huta Great God. A Dao sect cultivator? Everyone in the ancestral shrine focused their gazes on Xiaohua's group. At this moment, they also understood why there were several Dao sect cultivators in the ancestral shrine of the Empress Earth Stockade. Young Master Xiao, please come over. Ziming's clear voice rang out. Following Xiao Mao's analysis, Xiaohua saw that everyone was looking at him, and Ziming had called out to him. Xiaohua knew that it was time for him and the others to go on stage. Therefore, Xiaohua nodded at Xiao Mao, and under Xiao Mao's lead, they walked out of the crowd of shamans and came to the front of the statue of Huta God. Taiyan village's elder Wu was also in front. When he saw Xiao Mao walk past him, his face flushed red. He wanted to open his mouth to call out, but he didn't dare. How could Xiao Mao not know what he was thinking? He only nodded slightly at him with a smile on his lips. This smile immediately put Taiyan village's elder Wu at ease. Junior Xiaohua of the country of Shi's Imperial Thunder sect greets all the seniors. Xiaohua was the first to bow, and Xiao Mao and the others followed suit. Many of the shamans nodded slightly and didn't pay much attention to him. However, Xianming village's elder Wu asked in the language of the Dao sect in disbelief, "You found this grain?" This one and this one's junior brother, Xiao Mao, found it together. Xiaohua corrected. Where did you find it? QC, of course, Xiaohua said with a smile. It's just that it's a barren island. Junior brother and I encountered a storm. If we were to find it again now, I'm afraid it won't be easy. Why did you come to Meng Mountains? Junior is here to gain experience. Xiaohua was still neither haughty nor humble. But I didn't expect, under the arrangement of Huta Great God, I'm here to deliver the grain seed to the people of Meng Mountains. Jianji, you're here to deliver the grain seed on behalf of Huta Great God, so you're Huta Great God's messenger. Shebi village's elder Wu said coldly. But when will this Dao sect cultivator become the messenger of Meng Mountain's great god? Jamin, Huta village's elder Wu's expression changed, which was rare for him, and he said faintly, I only said that Xiaohua is here to deliver the grain seed, but I never said he's the messenger of Huta Great God. The grain seed is far away in the QC, and the people of Meng Mountains rarely go there. That's why Huta Great God sent a Dao sect cultivator here. What's wrong with that? Besides, even if Huta Great God sent Xiaohua as her messenger, I won't doubt it. Oh, before Shebi village's elder Wu could speak, another young shaman asked curiously, What do you mean? You must know about the sacred beast that descended from the sky a few dozen years ago, right? Huta village's elder Wu said faintly. Oh, that's right. Where's the sacred beast of your Huta village? Only now did many shaman elders remember, and they all looked at the table in front of Huta Great God's statue. That sacred beast is Xiaohua's soul beast. Huta village's elder Wu said. Xiaohua came here to train himself in order to find his soul beast. Tell me, if Huta Great God didn't send him here, why did his soul beast come to Meng Mountain's Huta village before him? Hearing elder Wu's words, Xiaohua also took out Blackie. Blackie was obediently lying in his hand, and its eyes were hazy with sleep. Hiss, many grand shaman elders of shaman villages gasped. They had seen Blackie before, and they knew that it was not an ordinary soul beast. But this strange creature was actually in Xiaohua's hand, and it was so intimate with him. Even if Xiaohua was the messenger of Huta Great God, who could refute that? A thoughtful look appeared in the eyes of several shaman elders. Of course, Xiaohua is a cultivator of Taoist sect, and he has never said that he is the messenger of Huta Great God. He came here only to take away his soul beast and leave behind the seed that Huta Great God entrusted to him, to help the people of Meng Mountains get through this crisis. That is all. Huta village's elder Wu looked at the crowd and added, Do we not need to pay any price? Huta village's elder Wu asked. Xiaohua smiled. Without waiting for Huta village's elder Wu to answer, he said, There is no need to pay any price. This seed is given to the people of Meng Mountains by Huta Great God, and it is not ours. Why should we pay any price? All right. Huta Village's elder Wu nodded, then turned to Huta Village's elder Wu and said, Jinji, since Xiaohua has said so, this old man will not be polite. But there are so few seeds, I'm afraid it will not be easy to distribute them. You don't need to worry about that. Huta Village's elder Wu said with a smile. Since he is sent by Huta Great God, how could he not consider it thoroughly? Hehe. Ziming also laughed. He extended his hand and took out 5 more storage bags from his bosom. So many? Huta Village's elder Wu's eyes flashed with joy. I have more here. Huta Village's G-men also walked over and took out 6 more storage bags. Huta Village's elder Wu said with a smile. Huta Great God sent us 12 storage bags, and each of our 12 main villages will get 1. Although there are other shaman villages in Wu Meng that do not have 1, our 12 main villages will distribute these seeds first. After a year and a half, we will distribute them in Wu Meng. All right. All the shamans were overjoyed, and their gazes fell on the storage bags. The shamans of Huta Village and Shebi Village are all here. After a while, we will distribute them carefully. The other shamans can take a storage bag and distribute them yourselves, G-Man said with a smile on the side. Hearing this, the shamans did not stand on ceremony. They each took a storage bag and opened it to take a look. Their eyes were filled with satisfaction. After all, Xiaohua had left a lot of seeds in these storage bags. Although they could not solve all the disasters in Meng Mountains in one go, it would not be a problem for 5 to 6 years. In the eyes of these great shaman elders, 5 to 6 years was just a blink of an eye. Jianji, thank you so much. A shaman elder with a blue face said. The people of Rushu Village will remember the kindness of Huta Village. Don't be so polite. Huta Village's elder Wu said with a smile. We are all descendants of the 12 great gods. We should support each other. If you really want to thank, you can thank these 2 little friends from Dao sect. They came from Meng Mountains and suffered a lot in sword domain. Xiaohua wanted to put on a smile and humbly decline. Unfortunately, after the shaman elder glanced at him and Xiao Mao, he only nodded slightly. Although there was no arrogance on his face and no disdain in his eyes, it was obvious that they were nothing in the eyes of these great shaman elders. If that's the case, I'll take my leave first. The shaman elder with a blue face moved his gaze away from Xiaohua and Xiao Mao, nodded at the Huta Village's elder Wu and said lightly. A hint of helplessness appeared in the eyes of Huta Village's elder Wu. He valued Xiaohua very much, but he couldn't ask the other shaman elders from the other 11 shaman villages to have the same opinion as him. Xiaohua's status might not be any worse than his, so he couldn't force him. All right, Huta Village's elder Wu nodded and said with a smile. Meng Mountains are now full of mourning. The earlier we leave, the earlier we can make plans. Wait right at this moment. Shebi Village's elder Wu opened his mouth and said with a strange expression. Jianji, some things are better said in front of all the shaman elders. Since they are all here, why don't you tell them about him? After saying that, Shebi Village's elder Wu looked at Xiao Mao and even pointed at him with his finger. Jamin, this is the business of your Shebi Village and Huta Village. It has nothing to do with us. The tall and burly Xianming Village's elder Wu smiled and said, You should solve it yourselves. In fact, when Ziming pointed out Hebi Village's elder Wu, all the great shaman elders had realized something. If Huta Village wanted to test these millet seeds, they would definitely choose the shaman villages under Huta Village's command. It was impossible for them to look for the shaman villages under Shebi Village. Besides, Shebi Village's elder Wu had attacked Xiaohua before he even entered the ancestral temple of Huta Village. There must be something fishy about this. These shaman elders didn't want to get involved in the conflict between the 2 villages. Chapter 2943. Jamin, it's better for me to talk to you in private. Elder Wu from Huta Village didn't want to reveal Xiao Mao's incident to the public. After all, he wasn't sure what had happened in Shibai Village. We, the 12 shaman villages, have always shared weal and woe, and there's nothing that we can't talk about. Elder Wu from Shibai Village said indifferently. But you Huta Village, are using a Dao sect cultivator to threaten me with this seed? I'd like to ask, Jianji, why is Huta village so interested in the internal affairs of Shibai village, when even the Shaman King can't interfere with our internal affairs? Hehe, Jimin, so that's what you're thinking. Elder Wu from Huta village sneered. I wanted to help you, but since you've misunderstood me, I have no choice but to be frank with you. Huta village's Elder Wu was depressed. Unlike Huta village, Shibai village didn't have as many descendants as Huta village. The bloodline in the village was getting thinner day by day, and many factions had formed in the village. Although Elder Wu didn't care too much about it, he was still scratching his head. Especially this time, the drought in Meng Mountains was very serious. And because of it, various factions had taken action. Not only were the conflicts increasing, but the methods they used were also more severe. When Elder Wu from Shibai village returned from the Shaman King's place, he immediately heard that something was wrong with Baili village. To his surprise, someone with the purest bloodline of Great God, Shibai, had appeared in Shibai village, and this person was a Dao sect cultivator. When he heard that this person was with Ziming from Huta village, Elder Wu was infuriated for no reason, thinking that Huta village was trying to encroach on his Shibai village. But today he saw Elder Wu from Huta village take out the seed that could save lives, and this seed, Elder Wu from Baili village didn't report it to him in time. Obviously, he had been instructed by Elder Wu from Huta village to launch an attack and threaten him with this seed. That was why he couldn't help but jump up in anger. Jianji, let these kids go first. Elder Wu from Baili village glanced at them and said indifferently. His face had turned blue. All right. Elder Wu from Huta village nodded. Then he turned and said, Ji-man Ziming, bring Huta village and Huta village to Huta village's Huta village and distribute the seed. In addition, let Changji tell them about the things they should pay attention to and how to sow the seeds. The grains of our Meng Mountains have always been nurtured by nature. They might not even know how to sow them. I know. Ji-man nodded, then slowly walked out of the ancestral hall with the hundreds of senior magi. Where are these cultivators? A young magus asked. This is a matter of Meng Mountain. Although they don't understand magus language, they shouldn't stay here. Senior Marshal Brother Li and Senior Marshal Sister Hongxia can leave, but my big brother can't leave. Facing the 11 elders, Xiao Mao felt weak in his heart and hurriedly argued. Oh. When the Xianming village's Elder Wu heard Xiao Mao's sorcerer language, his eyes lit up. He looked at the Shebi village's Elder Wu strangely, and the others also understood. Shibai village's Elder Wu's face was terrifyingly dark. He narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Huta village's Elder Wu. It was clear that he had placed all the blame on Huta village's Elder Wu. After Fairy Hongxia and Li Zongbao left, the entire ancestral hall fell into silence. No one said a word. Jianji, don't you want to explain something to me? Finally, Shebi village's Elder Wu spoke. I don't want to explain anything. Huta village's Elder Wu said calmly. Look at this young man's face and see if you have any impression of him. I've never seen him before. Shebi village's Elder Wu answered firmly. What about someone who looks like him? Or his ancestor? Huta village's Elder Wu frowned. What are you trying to say? Jianji. Shebi village's Elder Wu said coldly. Do you think he's a descendant of some senior magus of our Shebi village? Shebi village's Elder Wu emphasized the word think. Poor Xiaohua, he couldn't understand a single word. Xiao Mao's face was filled with fear, and he didn't dare to say anything else. Isn't he a descendant of your Shebi village? Huta village's Elder Wu was getting anxious. Didn't you hear his magus language? If he's not the descendant of great god Shebi, how could he speak so fluently? What I heard. Speaking up to hear, Elder Wu glanced at Xiao Mao and transmitted his voice to Shebi village's Elder Wu. Although the 10 great magus elders were standing there, their gazes were either looking at the storage pouch or the statue of great god Hutu. It was as if their minds weren't here. Hearing Elder Wu's transmission, Shebi village's Elder Wu's face turned red, and he retorted. Huta village's Elder Wu laughed. Looks like I've made a mistake. I thought I was that person. However, if he's not that person, he must be related to your Shebi village. There are many people related to my Shebi village. Shebi village's Elder Wu snorted coldly. But someone with such a pure bloodline. I'm afraid he's the only one, right? Hutta village's elder Wu advised. Now your Shebi village is really in a mess. Sword cultivators and cultivators are all acting like your own sword domain. What about the message I sent you last time? How is it? Is it true? Shebi village's elder Wu hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, It's true, and it's even spreading. I've killed over 20,000 people. I have to thank you for this. Over 20,000 people? Hutta village's elder Wu was dumbfounded. I didn't get that much information, did I? They're all my people. I can kill as many as I want. Shebi village's elder Wu snorted coldly. Didn't you kill 5,000 people too? It's the pot calling the kettle black. Hee Hutta village's elder Wu laughed. If it didn't involve the foundation of my Hutta village, how could I be so ruthless? Also, my fellow elders, their target is the people of Meng Mountains. I've told you this in my previous message. Don't be careless. Got it. The few senior magi's eyes brightened up, and they agreed without pause. That's enough, Jinji. This little kid from Dao sect has nothing to do with me. Shebi village's elder Wu seemed to hate Xiao Mao. He waved his hand and said, If there's nothing else, I'll return to Shebi village now. Don't be hasty. How could Hutta village's elder Wu let him go so easily? He raised his head and said, Xiao Mao, show him the portrait in the jade slip. Perhaps he can find something. Yes. Xiao Mao bit his lips, then took out the jade slip he had hidden in his pocket, and handed it over to Shebi village's elder Wu respectfully. Shebi village's elder Wu glanced at the jade slip on the ground indifferently. He grabbed it with his hand but didn't take it. Xiao Mao looked at this unfriendly elder Wu, but he didn't take a step back. This jade slip was very important to him, and he had to take it back. Shebi village's elder Wu glanced at the jade slip, then casually returned it to Xiao Mao and said, I'm sorry, Jianji. I've disappointed you. I don't know this woman. That's strange. Hutta village's elder Wu was really puzzled. If Shebi village's elder Wu didn't know her, how could she be from Shebi village? He turned to look at Xiao Mao and said, Do you have any other keepsakes? This Xiao Mao naturally had the jade pendant his mother had left for him. But seeing Shebi village's elder Wu's attitude and Hutta village's elder Wu's helpless expression, he didn't dare to take it out. This was the only thing his mother had left for him. He would rather not find out his identity than lose this jade pendant. He didn't want to make the same mistake as Jinghua City. No, Xiao Mao refused decisively. Sigh, then there's no other way. Hutta village's elder Wu sighed. It seems, oh wait a moment, just as the Hutta stockade's elder Wu and Xiao Mao gave up, the Shibai stockade's elder Wu seemed to have thought of something. He stretched out his hand and said, Show me the jade slip again. Yes, Xiao Mao was overjoyed. He quickly took out the jade slip again and handed it over. This time, Shebi village's elder Wu looked at it for a long time. He frowned slightly. When he returned the jade slip to Xiao Mao, he said, I have some impression of this girl. Xiao Mao felt his mouth go dry. He opened his mouth and looked at Shebi village's elder Wu. Can I tell you who she is? Shebi village's elder Wu rolled his eyes and said coldly, But before that, you have to tell me, who asked you to come to Meng Mountains? What's your purpose in coming to Meng Mountains? No one asked me to come to Meng Mountains. Xiao Mao understood what Shebi village's elder Wu meant. He smiled and said, Besides, I came to Meng Mountains to accompany Big Brother and the others to train. In fact, before I came to Meng Mountains and met Hebi village's elder Wu, I didn't even know I had the bloodline of Meng Mountains. Shebi village's elder Wu harumphed coldly. How could he believe it? Elder Xiao Mao had no choice but to tell him about his impression of his parents, and how he came to Meng Mountains with Xiao Hua and the others. In the end, he said, If it wasn't because you wanted to kill me, I still wouldn't know I have an enemy in Shebi village. Of course, I think Hebi village's elder Wu might have mistaken me for someone else. You? Shebi village's elder Wu frowned even more. He is a sword cultivator, and he is our Shebi village's servant. What grudge does he have with you? I don't know, Xiao Mao answered honestly. Until now, I'm still confused. Jamin, can't you see through such a simple thing? A young elder Wu with a red face sneered. If I'm not mistaken, This kid's mother must be an unknown girl in your Shebi village. Even you didn't pay attention to her. And this kid's father should also be a swordsman. Although this kid doesn't know Yiyu, he looks exactly like his father. That's why Yiyu was able to recognize this kid's origin with just a glance. But why did Yiyu want to kill this kid? I'm afraid that this kid's father has some secret with Yiyu. Chapter 2944. Panju. Why do you have to be so vague? A similarly young shaman with long cheeks said straightforwardly. From what this old man sees, this child's father must have the same goal as this Night Rain. He must have wanted to go to Shibai village to win the favor of Ji-man and obtain the position of Fu-man. Unfortunately, this child's father was a sentimental person. When he met this child's mother, for the sake of an unknown woman from Shibai village, he didn't even want the position of Fu-man and directly eloped with this woman. Hee, the women of Meng Mountains are sentimental. Shibai village is close to the border of Meng Mountains, so it has a lot of contact with the swordsmen of Sword region. This kind of thing is not unusual, right? Jimin, tell me, am I right? Jimin, am I right? The elder Wu of Hotu village had a smile on his face. Obviously he had also guessed it, so he asked. Yes, I can't remember the name of this girl. She seems to be a servant girl who served Ji-man of Shibai village. The elder Wu of Shibai village didn't have a bad expression on his face. He said calmly. If I'm not mistaken, what Feng Min said should be correct. I can't believe it. Feng Min said with a smile. A lowly servant girl and the son of a swordsman from Sword region actually have such a pure bloodline of a great god. The strangeness of this is really hard to understand. Jimin, this servant girl, and this swordsman. And that you have to investigate carefully. There might be some interesting stories behind this. A tall and thin old man who had been silent all this while said with a smile. I remember that there was a case of bloodline loss in your Shibai village, but before this old man could finish, the elder Wu of Shibai village sneered. Jianfeng, you don't have the right to talk about me, do you? You're acting like it's easy to get the position of elder Wu of Shibai village. Jimin, just pretend I didn't say anything. Anyway, it's the internal affairs of your Shibai village. I won't interfere. Even if the shaman king is here, he won't interfere. The elder Wu of Shibai village shrunk his head and smiled wretchedly. Fine. Let's end this matter here. The three-armed venerable Wu said with an indifferent tone. This is the moment of life and death for Meng Mountains. Let's wait until these millet seeds have spread all over Meng Mountains, and the trillions of people of Meng Mountains have overcome this crisis. You are a citizen of Shibai village. No matter how big the matter is, it can't be bigger than this. Yes, Swan and I is absolutely right. Nothing is as important as this. Elder Wu of Huta village nodded and said, I wanted to mention it to Jimin because Xiao Mao sent the millet seed here and the bloodline of Shibai village has become weak. Since Jimin doesn't want to care about it, please just laugh it off. Shibai village's elder Wu snorted coldly to show his dissatisfaction. After that, 10 elders of Shibai village nodded their heads at Huta village's elder Wu, then turned into black winds and left the ancestral hall. At this moment, Shibai village's elder Wu's expression was much better than before. After all, he didn't have any intention of meddling in the affairs of Shibai village. And Xiao Mao's background was only related to a little maidservant of Shibai village. Even if it was spread out, it wouldn't be a big deal. Especially, Xiao Mao's bloodline of a great god was indeed very pure, which made him very interested. However, his interest was only limited to asking Xiao Mao a few questions. Then he also turned into a black wind and left. Jimin, all the shaman villages of your Shibai village are distributing the millet seeds in Huta temple. Don't you want to go and have a look? Huta village's elder Wu stopped him. No need. You have made the preparations, so I'll leave it to you. Shibai village's elder Wu didn't stop. His figure gradually disappeared, but his words were still lingering in the air. Ask Swan and Ig to give me my share. Sigh. Looking at the disappearing black smoke, Huta village's elder Wu sighed. In the entire ancestral shrine, only Huta village's elder Wu, Xiaohua, and Xiao Mao were left. Elder Wu frowned, as if he was thinking about something. Xiao Mao, on the other hand, had a joyful look on his face. In fact, he had never thought about the position of Elder Wu. All he wanted was to find out where he came from. However, when he arrived in Meng Mountains, he was raised to the position of emperor by Bailu village's Elder Wu and Ji Man. The desire in his heart was ignited involuntarily. However, now that he had witnessed the incident at the Huta stronghold and the abilities of the 12 shamans, he knew that he was nothing more than a little bug in their eyes. Even someone as strong as Xiao Hua could not put up any resistance, let alone him. Therefore, he had achieved his goal of coming to Meng Mountains, and he didn't have any regrets. In this ancestral shrine, the only one who was confused, depressed, and bored was naturally Xiao Hua. Although he stayed in the ancestral shrine, from the beginning to the end, all the shamans were speaking in Meng Mountain's shaman language. He couldn't understand it at all. Xiao Mao didn't dare to say anything. He was just like a log standing there. He might as well follow Fairy Hongxia and Li Zongbao and leave the ancestral shrine. Hee, big brother. Xiao Mao finally noticed Xiao Hua and said with a smile, "I'm sorry, big brother. Little brother's matter has been settled." Hee, it's fine. Since you know where you come from, everything is easy, Xiao Hua said with a smile. Looking at that Elder Wu from Shebi village, it seems like you don't have much relationship with him. Yes, Xiao Mao said with a smile. Little brother's mother is just a servant girl of Ji Man from Shebi village. In his eyes, I'm just a nobody. Oh, then why is Yi Yu so hostile towards you? Xiao Hua asked curiously. Xiao Mao explained the whole story with a smile. Yi Yu is just gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Little brother is just here to find out where he came from. How could he possibly threaten his position? On the contrary, because of him jumping up and down, he revealed the plan of the swordsman to Shebi village's Elder Wu. I'm sure Elder Wu will do something about it, right? That's strange. If it's like what you said, even if your mother knows the language of shamans, it's impossible. Xiao Hua was sharp enough to think of this. Xiao Mao shook his head slightly. Big brother, it's already like this. Little brother is already very satisfied. How could the Elder Wu not know about what big brother knows? Since they don't want to tell me, why should I ask? Sai Xiao Mao is right. The Huta stronghold's Elder Wu said, the development of this matter has exceeded my expectations. The secrets of this matter are too deeply hidden. The identity of Xiao Mao's mother is a problem. The identity of Xiao Mao's father is also a problem. If we continue to investigate, that would be the matter of Shebi village. Judging from Jimin's reaction, he might not pay attention to it. After all, the disaster in Meng Mountains is the most serious. He can only think about other things after overcoming this crisis, right? Senior, little brother thanks you. Recalling what he saw just now, Xiao Mao knew that if it wasn't for Elder Wu from Huta village's recommendation, he wouldn't have been able to meet the Elder Wu from 11 Shaman village. And it would be even more impossible for him to learn about his background from Elder Wu from Shebi village. Especially, according to what Patriarch Wu of Shebi Stronghold said, this might be a shameful incident of Shebi Stronghold. If he went to Shebi Stronghold recklessly, he would offend this Patriarch Wu and Ji Man of Shebi Stronghold. Perhaps, before he could even get close to Shebi Stronghold, he would be killed in Meng Mountains. Therefore, Xiao Mao bowed and thanked Elder Wu sincerely. It's all right. Elder Wu from Shebi village waved his hand and said, not to mention that little brother Xiao is your big brother. Just the fact that you have the bloodline of Meng Mountains in your veins is enough for me to lend you a hand. Senior, that Elder Wu from Baian village will be fine, right? Xiao Mao had a good impression of Bai and village's Elder Wu, so he asked. Nothing will happen. Elder Wu said with a smile. Changji pledged his loyalty to you because of your bloodline, not because of you. In Meng Mountains, pledging loyalty to a descendant of a great god is very normal, so Jimin won't punish Changji too much. Besides, Changji is very experienced in planting millet seeds. I think Jimin wants Changji to teach him how to plant them, right? After saying that, Elder Wu looked at Xiao Hua and asked, little brother Xiao, aren't you going to Wu Meng? Xiao Hua knew that this was Elder Wu's concern. After thinking for a while, he shook his head and said, let's wait a little longer. Not to mention that I haven't passed the obstacle of Meng Mountains. It's not appropriate for me to go there now. Even senior brother Li of the younger generation was eager to return home. I still have to escort them through Huang country and return to Shi country. All right. Seeing that Xiao Hua had made up his mind, Elder Wu nodded. If you are going there, you will have to pass by my Huta village. Other elders don't care about this, but I still recognize your kindness. Just come. Hee, I understand. Xiao Hua recalled the coldness of the 10 great elders and said with a smile. If I didn't come to Huta village to find you, I'm afraid I wouldn't even know where Wu Meng is. Isn't there? Elder Wu was stunned, thinking that Xiao Hua didn't know there was a route in the Witch King token. Big brother has always been bad at directions. Xiao Mao laughed. If you let him find it himself, he will never find it. Ha ha ha, so that's how it is. Elder Wu also laughed and waved his hand. Let's go and see how the millet seeds are distributed. Once I'm done with the matters in the village, I'll personally send you off from Meng Mountains. Oh, that won't do. I'm really scared. Xiao Hua knew that Elder Wu had a noble status and wouldn't leave the witch village easily. How could he let him personally send him off? Little brother Xiao, don't be so polite. While walking, Venerable Wu said, You've done a lot for Meng Mountains. If I don't even send you off, wouldn't that make the cultivators of Dao sect laugh at the people of Meng Mountains for not being civilized? All right. Thank you for your kindness. Xiao Hua suddenly thought of Yu, who knew what kind of tricks this guy would play on his way back. Of course, he wasn't afraid of leaving Meng Mountains, but within Meng Mountains, it was better to have Elder Wu accompany him. When the 3 of them came out, Li Zongbao and Fairy Hongxia were already waiting outside. They didn't ask anything and followed the 3 of them to Huta Palace. Chapter 2945. In the Huta Palace, Ji-Man and Zi-Ming were busy instructing the guards and maids to distribute the seeds. The Huta village's shaman village was easy to deal with, as Zi-Ming had already distributed the seeds beforehand. They only needed to send the seeds into the soul nest. Many shaman elders who had already distributed the seeds were now surrounding the shaman elder of Bai village. Obviously, they were asking how to plant the seeds. As for the shaman elders of Shi Bai village, they were lining up, waiting for Ji-Man's order. Ji-Man was distributing the seeds while asking Zi-Ming something. Looking at Zi-Ming's expression, he didn't have the embarrassment and dissatisfaction he had in the ancestral temple. Instead, he had a smile on his face. Therefore, it was easy to take a step forward or a step back, but the result was totally different. Obviously, Xiao Hua was happy to see this result. Seeing the elder of Huta village come in, many elders stopped what they were doing and bowed to him. The elder waved his hand, signaling them to continue. He walked to the top of the Huta palace, looked at the 2 seats, and said in a low voice, Sigh, everyone is envious of these 2 seats. But in fact, the greater the power, the greater the responsibility. I've suffered enough in these years. I've been worrying about the Huta village almost all the time. How can I be free? Ji-Man was wise to withdraw in time. I still want to find a suitable elder to replace me. But where can I find one? The rich have their worries, the poor have their sorrows. And the poor will never understand the worries of the rich. Xiao Hua stood next to the elder and said with a smile. But if you put the people of Meng Mountains in your heart, watching them laugh, watch them cry, watch them live a happy life, Elder Wu, I'll never be able to enjoy this kind of enjoyment. Ha ha ha, little friend Xiao, you're right. The elder laughed. If you have such thoughts, sooner or later, you'll have such enjoyment too. As he spoke, Elder Wu's figure flew up to descend onto the seat at the very top. As soon as Elder Wu sat down, the dignified aura he exuded from before was instantly born. Xiao Hua and the others didn't dare look at him in the eye, and a feeling of respect arose spontaneously. Master, a timid voice came from the side. Xiao Mao looked over, and found that it was the elder of Bailu village. Xiao Mao hurriedly smiled and said, Elder Wu, please don't say such things again. Shibai village's elder Wu has already told me about it. My background. I'm afraid it's not what you think. Besides, I'm also preparing to leave Meng Mountains immediately. My Lord Tian's strongholds. Elder Wu's voice grew softer. Since I've already said it, I won't change it for the rest of my life. This lowly one is loyal to the bloodline of great god Shibai, and the people of Hongdi village are even more so. Even if you don't have any status, I and your people know better than anyone what you've brought to our Bayan stronghold. Xiao Mao carefully looked at Grandmaster Wu, who was high up. Naturally, he knew that Grandmaster Wu could hear their conversation. He signaled to Grandmaster Wu and said, "Even if you think that some words are true, you have to keep them in your heart. There's no need to say them out loud. Furthermore, I understand Venerable Wu's intentions. But I am a cultivator of Dao sect. After I leave, I will return to the kingdom of Xi and continue my cultivation. This trip to Meng Mountains is just a trial for me. The road ahead of me and Meng Mountains is very long. Who knows what will happen? Don't you think so, Grandmaster Wu?" Yes, very much so. Taiyan Stronghold's Elder Wu lowered his head and answered. Xiaoji Huta Stronghold's Elder Wu spoke. "Great Elder Wu," Xiaoji Elder Wu said with great respect. "What orders do you have?" "Jimin wants you to bring the millet seed from Shibai and Stronghold to him. You have to be careful. You have to know what you can and can't say," Huta Stronghold's Elder Wu ordered. "I understand." Taiyan Stronghold's Elder Wu bowed and said, "I'll go get the millet seed right now and rush to Shibai Stronghold." "Oh right." Xiao Mao suddenly thought of something and whispered, "Big brother, where are the 3 treasures from Bayan's stronghold? You should return them to them." Xiao Hua looked at Xiao Mao and rolled his eyes. "When have you ever seen Big Brother take back something that has fallen into his hands? Don't even think about it." Then, all right. What else could Xiao Mao say? Thinking of the benefits that Xiao Hua brought to Bayan's stronghold, these spirit treasures could be considered as a price. Big Brother has no use for this thing. If you want to return it to him, then return it to him. Xiao Hua clapped his hands and stuffed the bone case of the bone snake into Xiao Mao's hands. Xiao Mao took it and smiled bitterly. "They gave us 3, and now I'm giving them 1. What's the meaning of this? I might as well not return it." "If you don't want to return it, then keep it for yourself. This is a bone snake spirit treasure. It seems to be related to the snake on God Shibai's ear. It might be useful when you have the power of blood meridians." Xiao Hua smiled and whispered. It was not convenient for Xiao Mao to open it now, so he kept it in his storage bag. Looking at the noisy Huda Hall, Xiao Hua said to Huda Hall's Elder Wu, "Senior, it seems that the matter here will not be settled in a short time. Junior and the others will return first. Wait until Senior has nothing to worry about, then we'll bid farewell." "All right." Elder Wu nodded and ordered the guards in the hall to send the 4 of them back to the quiet room. Once they arrived at the quiet room, Fairy Hongxia said anxiously, "Darling Xiao, the millet seed has been delivered, and Zimming has lit up the soul-falling lamp. The matter of Million Ming Mountains should have nothing to do with us, right? Let's hurry back, shall we? Let's not talk about the result of the Dao Sword War. It's about elder sister's life and death. If I don't see it with my own eyes, I won't be able to eat or sleep in peace." As she spoke, Fairy Hongxia turned to look at Li Zongbao. Li Zongbao had not spoken for a long time. Ever since he found out that Kai Wuxia might still be alive, he seemed to have lost his soul. Every day he followed Xiao Mao and the rest in a daze, not saying a word, not doing anything. Xiao Hua understood Fairy Hongxia and Li Zongbao's anxiety. He told them about his worries and said, "It's easy for us to enter Million Meng Mountains. No one knows about it. But turning back here will be troublesome. Almost all the elders have seen us before. They might not have any thoughts, but what about their subordinates? What about those swordsmen with ulterior motives? Quan country is a big place, and there are thousands of ways for us to return to Shi country. Once we get to the Sword Catacomb, we can still make plans. But from Million Meng Mountains, we can only go through Drifting Cloud Lake. If the Elder Wu or Zimming of Huta's stronghold sent us off, wouldn't that save us a lot of trouble? It's just a matter of 10 days, or dozens of days. If Zhuoxiao is still alive, she wouldn't mind waiting a few days, right?" Fairy Hongxia knew what Xiao Hua said made sense, so she sat down with her legs crossed. She wanted to meditate, but the worry in her heart was still the same as before. She couldn't calm her mind. Fairy Hongxia opened her eyes and looked at Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua was sitting there quietly, as if he had already started meditating. Fairy Hongxia sighed, feeling a little disappointed. She really didn't like being in Huta's stronghold. Everything was out of her control, especially when she was facing the 12 elders of Huta's stronghold. That feeling of disgust and fear came from the bottom of her heart. Although Xiaohua looked like he was meditating with his eyes closed, his mind had already entered the mysterious heaven ring of aura. The heaven ring of aura had undergone a huge change. It was no longer empty and boundless like before. The 49 green seal characters were flashing with a brilliant green light, flying everywhere. As the light of these green seal characters changed, not only did 49 voices come out from the heaven ring of aura, but all kinds of illusions also appeared in the light. These illusions were either mountains, rivers, flowers, or the starry sky. In short, there were so many of them. Everything in the heaven ring of aura looked very pleasing. But Xiaohua was extremely distressed. Yes, Xiaohua already had the foundation of comprehending these 49 green seal characters. He was able to pronounce them in a short period of time. But the last green seal character had been there for a long time. No matter what, Xiaohua couldn't pronounce it correctly. The primordial spirit had already written the green seal character for the 9th time in front of Xiaohua's mind. But the green light only flickered slightly before disappearing. The green seal character didn't even make a single sound. That's strange. Everything is correct. Xiaohua was bewildered. Why is it that the other 49 green seal characters are so easily produced, but the last one is so easy to pronounce? Damn it, this young master doesn't believe. Xiaohua didn't have anything else to do at this time, so he used all his strength. He waved his soul strands again and again, trying to pronounce the words. Xiaohua of the Back Earth Stockade was currently meditating. This meditation lasted for 9 days. In these 9 days, Xiaohua was completely engrossed in the heaven ring of aura's final green seal character. But he didn't make any progress. On this day, Xiaohua exited the heaven ring of aura with extreme helplessness. His heart was somewhat depressed because Ziming had come. The moment she saw Xiaohua, the originally reserved and dignified Ziming quickened her pace and approached him. With a trace of reluctance in her voice, she said, "Young Master Xiao." Fairy Hongxia naturally came out of her meditation as well. Seeing Ziming's expression, she was unhappy and hurriedly said, "Miss Ziming, how should we address you now? Can we address you as G-Man?" Hearing Fairy Hongxia's reminder, Ziming's face dimmed, and his cheerful steps became heavy. When he was a few feet away from Xiaohua, he stopped and turned to look at Fairy Hongxia, saying, "Little sister Hongxia, this concubine has only lit up the soul-falling lamp, and has the qualifications to inherit G-Man. Even if G-Man personally agreed to give up G-Man's position 10 years later, that is still a matter for the future. This concubine is the same as before. You can call me whatever you want." "Hee, that's good," Fairy Hongxia said with a smile. "This way, I and the rest don't have to pay respects to Miss Ziming." Hearing Fairy Hongxia use the word "I" to remind her of the difference between her and Xiaohua, Ziming felt even more sad. But this expression lingered on her face for a moment, and disappeared when it was seen by Xiaohua. "Young Master Xiao, young Master Li." Ziming bit her lips and said, "Elder Wu has already finished dealing with the matters in the stockade. He has just ordered that the 4 of you will be sent out of Meng Mountains in 3 days. Chapter 2946. Very good. Fairy Hongxia raised her eyebrows. The anxiety that she had suppressed for the past 9 days was awakened once again. "I and the rest have left Xi for a long time. It is time for us to return." Li Zongbao's eyes flashed with anxiety, but he did not say anything. But Xiao Mao's expression was a little lonely. For him, the journey to Meng Mountains was like a dream. Although he had told Xiaohua that he was very satisfied with everything he had done, Xiaohua was still not satisfied. But it was impossible for him to not have any other thoughts. Sure enough, looking at Xiao Mao's expression, Ziming said, "Regarding Xiao Mao's background, Elder Wu said that he will help you investigate it in detail." "Thank you, Elder Wu." Xiao Mao was overjoyed. It's not just that." Ziming looked outside the hall and lowered her voice. "Now that the bloodline of Shebi Stronghold is thin, and the swordsmen are causing trouble, the entire Shebi Stronghold is showing signs of falling apart. Moreover, The 99 upper strongholds and 360 lower strongholds of Shebi Stronghold are even more chaotic. Otherwise, Elder Wu and G-Man of Shebi Stronghold would not be so bold to treat you. Therefore, Elder Wu said that you still have a chance. Although the chance is not great, but it's better than nothing. You should focus on your cultivation. If there is any witchcraft passed down by your ancestors, you must pay more attention to it. Opportunities are always given to those who are prepared. Ziming naturally could not say too much, but her words represented Elder Wu. Since Elder Wu thought so highly of Xiao Mao's chances were naturally much greater than the others. Xiao Mao's face lit up with joy. He bowed and said, I won't say any unnecessary words. My elder brother is Master Xiao. Even if I can't be Master Xiao, I will be a Xiao who loves his people. At this point, he really could not say what he wanted to be a Xiao. Young Master Xiao, don't think too much. Elder Wu can't interfere with the internal affairs of Shebi Stronghold. Everything depends on you. Ziming smiled again. And the greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment. Yes, this Xiao naturally understands. Xiao Mao smiled and said, doing my best is exactly what this Xiao thinks. Good. Ziming clapped her hands. I will pass your words to Elder Wu. Ziming then looked at Xiao Hua. In 3 days, you will be leaving. Ziming said in a low voice, I will ask Grandmaster Wu for permission and try my best to send you off. However, G-Man and Venerable Wu couldn't leave the shaman stronghold at the same time. Since Venerable Wu was sending G-Man off, G-Man had to stay. And as the next G-Man, I will most likely have to accompany G-Man. Miss Ziming, if you can send him off for 1,000 miles, you'll have to do it eventually. Instead of sending him away for a long time, why don't you make a decision now? Seeing Ziming's affectionate gaze, Fairy Hongxia was displeased. She said with a double meaning, it's better to end the pain quickly than to prolong the pain. Haha, this concubine naturally knows. That's why I've come to send everyone off today. Ziming bit her lip and forced a smile. She was a bit conflicted, because her feelings toward Xiao Hua were very complicated. To say that she treated Xiao Hua as her lover like Fairy Hongxia, this was clearly not possible. After all, the two of them had only known each other for a short period of time. It was impossible for their feelings to reach that stage. However, if one were to say that he was really as pure as Ziyi and Xiao Hua, that was obviously not too realistic. After all, in the Netherworld path, in that dark and special environment, Ziming, who had always been strong, rarely revealed a trace of his heart to Xiao Hua. With their fingers intertwined, how could Ziming treat Xiao Hua as an ordinary person? Unfortunately, the two of them had different identities and experiences. Xiao Hua still had a long way to go, and the responsibility on her shoulders was also very heavy. As the saying goes, fate makes fools of people. Perhaps Ziming could only find a position between lover and acquaintance. With such thoughts in mind, Ziming was filled with mixed feelings towards Fairy Hongxia's sensitive senses. Then many thanks, Miss Ziming. Fairy Hongxia dragged her voice, and did not wait for Xiao Hua to speak. Rubbish! This was the future G-Man of Ho-Tu Stronghold. Other than beauty, Fairy Hongxia could not compare to her in any other aspect. That sense of danger filled Fairy Hongxia's heart. Also facing Fairy Hongxia's pressure, Ziming retreated slightly. Looking at Xiao Hua, who had not spoken, she said softly, Young Master Xiao, G-Man asked me to give you something. However, before Ziming could take out G-Man's gift, Fairy Hongxia, who was at the side, said in a sharp tone, why is there only darling Zhao's? There's nothing for us? Fairy Hongxia's emphasis on Xiao Hua was very heavy. If sister can take out a spring return pill, you will naturally receive G-Man's generous gift. Ziming said indifferently, as though she was starting to retaliate. You gave the spring return pill to G-Man? Fairy Hongxia was curious, looking at the silent Xiao Hua, and then at the grateful Ziming. Then if G-Man stays young forever, wouldn't Ziming? But at this point, Fairy Hongxia stopped. Obviously, she had understood the cause and effect of this matter. This concubine. Sometimes my precautions are too much. This is this concubine's fault, and also, the fault of coveting power. Ziming bit her lips and said softly, during the Dipankara ceremony, Ji-man made an unimaginable concession. This concubine then understood. After many days of reflection, this concubine finally understood young Master Zhao's painstaking efforts. What young Master Zhao said that day was right. Family is more important than anything else. Even if you have the power to rule the world, you are still alone. Then who can share your happiness? Moreover, you have to worry about the disappearance of your power at every moment. How can there be any happiness? This concubine and Ji-man's confrontation is not only disadvantageous to the situation of my Ho-Tu stronghold, it is also a wear and tear on the family ties of my Ho-Tu stronghold. Rather than being so nervous, it is better to take a step back. The entire Ho-Tu stronghold will be clear, and this concubine and Ji-man will be able to break free from the hatred. Hearing this, Xiaohua's heart was shocked. As the saying goes, the speaker does not mean it, but the listener does. Xiaohua had been thinking about the matter of cultivating the green seal text. Although he had heard Ziming's words and Fairy Hongxia's words, he did not care about them. Now Ziming's seemingly insignificant words immediately woke Xiaohua up. Take a step back. That's right, take a step back. Ziming and Ji-man's confrontation. If we don't take a step back, we will lose both. If we take a step back, we will both live. This step back is the best. As the saying goes, the number of the Dian is 50, but 49 are used. When it is divided into 2, it is divided into 2, and it is divided into 3. When it is divided into 4, it is divided into 4, and it is divided into 4. Heaven 1, Earth 2, Heaven 3, Earth 4, Heaven 5, Earth 6, Heaven 7, Earth 8, Heaven 9, Earth 10. Heaven 5, Earth 5, 5 each have their own combination. Heaven has 25, Earth has 30, Earth has 50, Earth has 50. This is why it becomes a ghost god. It is said that outside of this world, 49 can be completely formed. Isn't this the illusion of my heaven ring? And the number of the Dian is not 49 but 50. Then, what about the one that disappeared? Isn't that the one that retreated? 49 is full, 50 is overflowing. Therefore this one cannot be born. This one can only take a step back. And it is not that it cannot be born, but it cannot speak. This one is the one that Tao begets, and it is also the one that does not need to be used. This one is the origin of the 49 green seal text, and it can be used together with the 49 green seal text. It can also be said that speaking is yang, and not speaking is yin. This unique green seal text is that yin. Although the green seal script can't be pronounced, it can't be missing or missing. Perhaps the art of moving clouds and summoning rain doesn't need this silent green seal script, but it can definitely be used in talismans that can connect with the gods. After thinking through this, Xiaohua's spirit was greatly shaken. He let the primordial spirit in the heaven ring begin a new attempt, and said with a smile, "How can this be the reason for Miss Ziming's hatred? It is also not because Miss Ziming is too cautious. It is because Ziming is in the situation. Although Ziming can see clearly, when Ziming really wants to do it, she does not dare." This Xiao dares to say that when Miss Ziming asked this Xiao for the 4 rejuvenation pills, you must have thought of Ji-man, right? Seeing the joy on Xiaohua's face, although she did not know the reason, Ziming's heart immediately brightened. She said with a smile, "Not to hide it from young Master Xiao, this concubine really did think of Ji-man that day. But what is this rejuvenation pill?" This concubine being able to ask for 4 was already unexpected. How could I dare to ask for half more? Moreover, this concubine also hesitated on whether to give this rejuvenation pill to Ji-man or not. "Haha, this Xiao knew that you would have such thoughts, so I did it for you," Xiaohua said again. This Xiao was also somewhat hesitant that day, afraid that you would blame this Xiao, afraid that I would do something wrong. Moreover, now that I think about it, perhaps Ji-man thought that this rejuvenation pill was given by Ziming at that time, but after that, she might have understood. Since she still made the decision at the Dipankara ceremony, then she must have the same thoughts as Miss Ziming, and did not want to disregard the safety of Empress Tu village. This concubine does not dare. Ziming pursed her lips and said with a smile, "This rejuvenation pill was originally young Master Zhao's. How to deal with it naturally depends on young Master Xiao. In fact, just as young Master Xiao said, Ji-man has the inheritance of Confucian cultivators, and also admires the freedom of reading 10,000 books and traveling 1,000 miles. Now this concubine has a heavy responsibility. 10 years later, she may go to the depths of Wu Meng, or perhaps go beyond Meng Mountains to find the truth of the destruction of Confucian cultivators. Cough cough, Fairy Hongxia could not help but cough. In that case, Miss Ziming and Ji-man's wishes have been fulfilled. I really have to congratulate you. Oh, that's right, Miss Ziming's 5th rejuvenation pill. When this Xiao has the opportunity to refine it, I will definitely refine it. Xiaohua glanced at Fairy Hongxia and said, of course, if this Xiao has no time, I will ask Xiao Mao to send it over. Chapter 2947. Thank you, young Master Xiao. Ziming's eyes flashed with gloom as she said, there's no need to rush the 5th rejuvenation pill. This concubine may not be able to use it in this lifetime. Xiaohua comforted her. Now that young Miss Ziming has ignited the soul lamp, you can carefully comprehend the mysteries within it. With young Miss Ziming's painstaking efforts, you will surely be able to move heaven and earth. You will surely be able to attract the pity of the great deity Hutu. Zai's resurrection may not be impossible. Ziming smiled and said, thank you, young Master Xiao, for your auspicious words. If Zai is alive, he will surely understand young Master's sincerity. At this moment, Li Zongbao, who had been watching from the side, suddenly spoke. Junior brother Xiao, you gave Ji-man the rejuvenation pill for some other reason, right? Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and looked at Ziming and the others who were puzzled. He revealed a bitter smile and said, Senior brother Li is right. However, this little brother is the same as Ziming. Only after giving the rejuvenation pill did I realize that since Ji-man was so happy to see the rejuvenation pill, and even accepted Ziming's sincerity, that means Ji-man didn't get the rejuvenation pill from Ziyan. So where did Master and I-Chin's rejuvenation pill go? Sure enough, Ziming frowned and said, you are right, young Master Xiao. I have the same question. My previous methods were I killed many of Ziyan's subordinates. Not many soul warriors have returned. I have asked around and they did not go to the soul refining cave. Of course, it is normal that they did not go. Ziyan is very careful in his actions. Even if he wanted to kill me or Master and I-Chin, he would not let his subordinates know. He could do it with just a few divine guards. Although the rejuvenation pill is not in Ji-man's hands, it does not mean that Ziyan did not kill Master and I-Chin. Perhaps the rejuvenation pill was lost in the process of being sent to Huta Stronghold. But obviously, there was only one possibility. Not to mention that Ziming's subordinates would give the rejuvenation pill to Ziming. Ziyan's subordinates would not dare to keep it for themselves. Or perhaps the demonic person used the rejuvenation pill for some other purpose. Li Zongbao whispered. Didn't Elder Wu search Ziyan's soul after he was possessed by the demonic person? Fairy Hongxia asked curiously. Miss Ziming didn't ask Elder Wu about it. Soul searching isn't omnipotent. Ziming shook her head. I've asked Elder Wu, but Elder Wu didn't get this information from the devil cultivator's soul. Xiaohua's heart moved as he said. Or perhaps, Ziyan really didn't go to kill Master Huaqin? Was it done by someone else? But this 6. What does it mean? Ziming obviously couldn't figure it out. Forget it. There are no absolute secrets in this world. Sooner or later, there will be clues. When Xiaohua thought about Master Qin-Qin's arrangements and Master Qin-Qin's so-called last words, he felt that this matter was even more strange. Just saying that it was confusing was not enough to describe how strange it was. He could only support his forehead with his hand. Hee, young Master Xiao, I'm afraid you're thinking about Ji-man's things, aren't you? Ziming blinked his eyes slyly when he heard this. But just as she finished blinking, she felt a little regretful in her heart. Fairy Hongxia was obviously here. Why would she do such a thing for no reason? Speaking of which, Ziming's thoughts were quite normal. She was the next Ji-man of Huta Stronghold. She was second only to the two of them. And her status was incomparably noble. Usually, other than the twin Midnight, who else had seen her smile before? It was also this Xiaohua who gave Ziming a sense of security and magnanimity. In front of him, Ziming could do things without any pressure, without any burden. Hee, that's true. Xiaohua smiled and touched his nose. His answer didn't deviate from Ziming's thoughts. This Xiao has always been thinking about Ji-man's Confucian inheritance. A rejuvenation pill can be exchanged for a cultivation method. This Xiao's painstaking efforts are not in vain. You wish. Ziming couldn't help but say. Although the rejuvenation pill is precious, it's insignificant compared to the Confucian inheritance. How could Ji-man do such a stupid thing? When he spoke up to hear, Ziming wrinkled his nose and said helplessly, Alas, this rejuvenation pill was clearly something I asked young Master Xiao to give to Ji-man. Why didn't Ji-man give these things to me? Ah, it's not the Confucian inheritance? Seeing Ziming's expression and hearing Ziming's explanation, Xiaohua laughed in his heart. His face also made an exaggerated expression of astonishment. Of course, Xiaohua was also somewhat puzzled and curious. He didn't know what other good things Ji-man could give him other than the Confucian inheritance. Darling Xiao, you're too imaginative. Fairy Hongxia's mouth revealed disdain. You don't understand the meaning of inheritance. How could others give you the Confucian inheritance? This bystander bit the bullet very hard again. Young Master Xiao, take a look at what this is. Ziming said as he reached out and took out two things from the soul nest. Oh, tortoise shell? Xiaohua's gaze fell on the old tortoise shell in Ziming's right hand. He was astonished. However, when Ziming raised his left hand, there was a jade slip in his hand that Xiaohua was familiar with. Ziming said with a smile. According to Ji-man, the Confucian inheritance can't be easily given to others. As a Dao sect cultivator, young Master Xiao can't give the Confucian cultivation method to you. However, there are many Confucian inheritances. Since ancient times, there has been a saying that there are hundreds of schools of thought contending. Many cultivators also admire Confucian cultivators. When they have the opportunity to obtain the Confucian inheritance, they will change to learn it. This jade slip contained a secret technique. It can be said to be the bridge between Confucian cultivators and Dao sect cultivators. However, Ji-man said that young Master Xiao probably won't be able to use it. Of course, if young Master Xiao has a great opportunity, this technique may be useful. Hearing Ziming speak so mysteriously and ambiguously, Xiaohua couldn't help but frown. Since it was a jade slip, it must be something of a cultivator. It couldn't be considered a pure Confucian cultivation method. It might not even be comparable to Huang Yi's Confucian cultivation method. Thus, Xiaohua pointed at the tortoise shell and asked curiously, Then what about this thing? Ji-man didn't say anything about it. I'm afraid it's recorded in the jade slip. Ziming looked at the inconspicuous tortoise shell and handed the jade slip to Xiaohua and said, Moreover, I didn't look into the contents of the jade slip. Young Master Xiao, please take a look and you will know. Oh. Xiaohua took the tortoise shell and looked at it carefully. Sure enough, it was similar to the tortoise shell in his space. It was also close to 20%, but less than 20%. It was abnormally simple. Then, Xiaohua used his divine sense to look into the jade slip carefully. In just a moment, a trace of disappointment appeared on Xiaohua's face. There was naturally a lot of information recorded within the jade slip. What Xiaohua could see at this moment was naturally the introduction at the front. This introduction was very simple. It meant that what was recorded within this jade slip was a secret technique used by a Dao sect. It was called transplant flowers to wood. The function of this transplant flowers to wood was to change the cultivation of a Dao sect cultivator to a Confucian cultivator. The meaning of transplant flowers to wood was not only because Dao sect's flower was replaced with Confucian cultivator's wood. More importantly, the meaning was that the cultivation of a Confucian cultivator from a Dao sect cultivator was not a true Confucian cultivator in essence, but a kind of cultivation that was not the same. As for what Ji-man said about Xiaohua not being able to use it, it was because this technique could only be used when a cultivator was still in the qi refining stage. Once a cultivator reached the foundation establishment stage, this secret technique would have no use at all. Seeing this, Xiaohua sighed slightly. Now he already knew the secret of Confucian cultivation from Huang Yi's Confucian cultivation technique. Confucian cultivators cultivated different from Tao sect cultivators. They cultivated the middle dantian. Moreover, they cultivated the so-called xiantian true qi, which emphasized on refining the qi in the chest. In contrast, Tao sect cultivators cultivated the lower dantian. Moreover, above the qi refining stage, there were still foundation establishment, gold core, and other stages. This transplant flowers to wood technique was the Confucian cultivators' way of refining xiantian true qi. Using it on Tao sect cultivators, it could be considered a wonderful technique. But to Xiaohua, this wondrous technique was simply trash. Not to mention that Xiaohua had already condensed his gold core. It was very unlikely for him to use this technique. Even if he was an ordinary qi refining cultivator, without the inheritance of a Confucian cultivator, how could he possibly cultivate as a Confucian cultivator? What does Ji-man mean by this? There is no sincerity in his gift at all. Xiaohua slightly curled his lips, but his heart was slightly moved. Oh, could it be that Venerable Wu told Ji-man about my seal? Once this thought appeared, Xiaohua shook his head. With Venerable Wu's status and his solemn warning, Venerable Wu would definitely not tell a second person about the seal on his body. Perhaps only the word perfunctory could describe Ji-man's intention in giving this jade slip. However, when Xiaohua looked at it a few more times, a trace of pleasant surprise actually appeared on his face. Because the last few sentences were written by Ji-man, it explained the origin of this tortoise shell. Although it was only a few sentences, it truly moved the greedy Xiaohua. As it turned out, this damaged tortoise shell was called Ji Ding, and it was a legendary item in the Confucian cultivator inheritance. There were a total of 9 such damaged tortoise shells, namely Ji Ding, Yin Ding, Qing Ding, Su Ding, Yang Ding, Jing Ding, Liang Ding, Yong Ding, and Yu Ding. After gathering all 9 of these damaged tortoise shells, one could piece them together into a complete tortoise shell. And this complete tortoise shell had an even more resounding name: Heavenly Book and River Diagram. As for the use of this Heavenly Book and River Diagram, Ji-man only used one word to describe it: flesh sanctification. After reading to the end, Xiaohua's eyes flashed with joy, but his heart suddenly turned cold. This so-called sanctification of the flesh was simply too massive. Xiaohua, who had experienced many life and death situations, did not believe that a heavenly book and river diagram could allow one to reach the heavens in a single step. Moreover, if the Confucian cultivators had such a miraculous treasure, how could they have been completely annihilated by the Tao sect? The most important thing was that if Xiaohua had such an arrogant treasure, how could he give it to someone else? Even if he could not find the other 8 tortoise shells, he would definitely keep this Ji Ding in his space and be secretly happy, right? Chapter 2948. Ji-man ah Ji-man. Xiaohua thought for a moment and smiled bitterly. What are you thinking? Do you want to give me something? If you don't want to, then don't give me anything. Why do you want to use these boring things to trick me? But at this time, Xiaohua saw the somewhat nervous Ziming in front of him. His mind lit up, and he suddenly saw the light. Sigh, I finally understand. It doesn't matter what Ji-man gives me. She just wants me to know that she already knew that the rejuvenation pill was given by me and not Ziming. Furthermore, she also used this opportunity to explain the matter between Ziming and herself. She eliminated the last of her grudges with Ziming. She even warned me not to have any ideas about the Hutu Stockade's Confucian cultivators. Xiaohua smiled in his heart. Of course, Ji-man is Ji-man. The things she gives can't be too degrading. Such a flashy but impractical treasure of legends was exactly in line with her identity. As for the so-called heavenly book and river diagram, Ji-man herself doesn't believe it. Xiaohua immediately kept the 2 items and said to Ziming with a smile, "Does Ji-man have anything else to say to this Xiao?" "Nothing." Ziming shook his head slightly, but after thinking for a while he said, "Ji-man seems to have muttered, the greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment, right? It's similar to what I said to Xiao Mao earlier." Hee. Then I ask Miss Ziming to thank Ji-man on my behalf. I understand her intentions. Many thanks for her generous gift. As Xiaohua spoke, he bowed towards Ziming in greeting. Ziming knew that this gift was given to Ji-man by Xiaohua, so he accepted it. At the same time he said seriously, I will pass on young master's thanks to Ji-man. Then, Ziming looked at Fairy Hongxia, who still had some hostility, and sighed in his heart. He bowed and bade farewell to the four people. When he walked out of the quiet room, he couldn't help but look back at Xiaohua. That look was enough to erase all the sceneries of the mortal world. That look of resentment was also enough to express all the thoughts in Ziming's heart. That heavy gaze, the expression imprinted in Xiaohua's eyes was enough to freeze the heavens and earth. Unfortunately, all the enough was only for an instant. Ziming had no choice but to shift his gaze away from that person's eyes. Her figure remained the same, her steps remained the same, and everything in the world remained the same. Seeing Ziming's figure turn around and gradually disappear through the hall door, Fairy Hongxia looked at Xiaohua, who was still looking up. She originally wanted to say a few words of ridicule, but after today, who knew what their fates would be like? Who knew when they would meet again? She also sighed in her heart, and didn't say anything else. She found a corner to sit down, and closed her eyes to meditate. Sure enough, 3 days later, a soul warrior came to pass on Venerable Wu's orders. When the four of them arrived at the Huta stronghold with the soul warrior, other than Venerable Wu, who was standing in the air with his hands behind his back, Ji-man and Ziming were nowhere to be seen. Seeing such a cold farewell, Xiaohua didn't feel any dissatisfaction in his heart. He didn't like to show his face in front of others. The complicated etiquette would only make him feel tired and impatient. Coming quietly and leaving quietly was exactly what he wanted. However, Ziming didn't appear, which was beyond his expectation. Although Ziming had already bid farewell to Xiaohua and the others 3 days ago. Young Master Xiao. Seeing Xiaohua coming over, Venerable Wu's figure didn't change, but there was a trace of a smile on his face. He said, Now our Huta stronghold has finally seen the light of hope after the disaster. Everyone is now focused on the distribution and sowing of the millet seeds. You also know that the millet seeds of our Meng Mountains have always been left to their own devices. Even the natives have never planted them. It is indeed troublesome to let them plant the seeds. Besides, young master also knows that there aren't many millet seeds to begin with. Although every shaman stronghold can get some, the amount is different after all. It is inevitable that there will be some conflicts. Ziming had already gone to inspect every shaman stronghold yesterday. With her prestige, it was enough to intimidate all the shaman strongholds under Huta stronghold. Besides, this is also her training before she takes over as Ji-man's leader. Therefore, this old man can only come to see young master off. I don't dare. Xiaohua hurriedly bowed and said. Since Huta stronghold is so busy, Venerable Wu doesn't need to see us off. It is better for us to stay in the stronghold. Junior and the others can return to the country of Shi by ourselves. Hee, Venerable Wu laughed. If it was before our Huta stronghold distributed the millet seeds, young Master Xiao can leave or stay as you wish. But now? If this old man doesn't see you off, I'm afraid young master won't be able to take half a step out of Meng Mountains. Hiss. Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air when he heard this. His eyes quickly turned, sizing up his left side, which was no different from usual. The expression on his face changed slightly. That's right. Ever since the Venerable Wu of the other 12 shaman strongholds received Xiaohua's millet seeds in the ancestral temple of Huta stronghold, Xiaohua was already a little vigilant in his heart. It was as if in the eyes of these Venerable Wu, he was just a little soul beast, and his life and death were all under their control. These millet seeds, although they were placed in Xiaohua's dimensional storage, it was no different from being placed in the hands of these Venerable Wu. When the Venerable Wu received the millet seeds from Xiaohua, it was no different from taking something out from his own pocket. And now, even the Huta stronghold didn't have enough millet seeds, so what about the other shaman strongholds? Just like what Venerable Wu said, Xiaohua was known as the messenger sent by the great god Hutu, who knew if Xiaohua still had more millet seeds. Besides, even if the great Magus elders of these colossal clans didn't have any ideas, Would the venerable Wu and Ji man of the other shaman strongholds not have any ideas? In addition, there were many swordsmen and cultivators in Meng Mountains, and those who had evil intentions and had their own plans were as numerous as the hairs on an ox. Perhaps, these were not people that Xiaohua and the other three could deal with. When Xiaohua brought the people of Meng Mountains out of their predicament, he had also placed himself in a dangerous situation. Thinking of this, Xiaohua smiled bitterly, bowed again and said, "Junior has troubled Senior again." "Aha! What trouble are you talking about? If not for young Master Xiao, I'm afraid all the people of Meng Mountains would have starved to death. Young Master Xiao was sent by the great god Hutu. How could I not know about the favor you have done for Meng Mountains? Being able to safely send young Master out of Meng Mountains is what I should do. Even if young Master didn't mention it, I would still say it." Venerable Wu raised his hand and helped Xiaohua up from the ground. "If that's the case, Junior will take out the flying boat now. Senior, please board it." Xiaohua signaled Xiao Mao with his eyes, then asked Venerable Wu, or perhaps, Senior has pointed out some secret exit. However, before Xiaohua could finish his words, and before Xiao Mao could take out the flying boat, Venerable Wu burst out laughing. His laughter was long and harsh, and it lasted for about half the time it took to finish a pot of tea. Xiaohua was confused by his laughter. On the other hand, Fairy Hongxia and Li Zongbao had a faint smile on their faces, as they understood the meaning behind Venerable Wu's laughter. "Young friend Xiao, not to mention Hutu stronghold, even in Meng Mountains, if I want to send someone out, no one will be able to stop me. What secret exit? I don't know anything about it." Venerable Wu raised his voice and said proudly, "Furthermore, using your Dao Sect's flying boat in my Hutu stronghold, isn't that a slap to the face of the people of Meng Mountains? Today, I will use my own mount to send young friend out of Meng Mountains." Yes, it's all Junior's fault," Xiaohua answered in fear. Of course, he was cursing in his heart. Nonsense, if he had Venerable Wu's strength, he wouldn't be afraid of those people's schemes. Yes, even if he was alone, he might not be so shameless. Everything was because he had Xiao Mao, Li Zongbao, and Fairy Hongxia with him. Along the way, the four of them had suffered a lot. Now that his tracks were exposed, he naturally had to protect the three of them. Flying out of Meng Mountains in a grand manner was indeed honorable, but in reality, perhaps only he knew the pain. As a matter of fact, Fairy Hongxia, Li Zongbao, and the others had already told Xiaohua about these things before they entered Million Meng Mountains. As a grandmaster, bearing and face were of utmost importance. Xiaohua understood this as well, but when he had to face it, with his petty personality, he was really worried. Caw, a loud bird cry came from a distant mountain peak. Then a fist-sized black shadow appeared from the mountain peak and flew towards the group. Oh, Xiaohua was slightly taken aback. As a cultivator of the Dao sect, he had heard the cries of many spiritual birds. However, those cries were not without sonorous or clear sounds. There was even a hint of arrogance within those cries. But the bird cry just now was obviously different from all the ones he had heard before. His voice was low, hoarse and sharp, which made people's hearts tremble. Unknowingly, Xiaohua was extremely curious about Venerable Wu's mount. However, when that black shadow got closer and closer, and appeared in the field of vision of Xiaohua and the others couldn't help but widen their eyes. They looked with some disbelief at this approximately 300-meter-long mount. How could this be a mount? This was not an ordinary spirit beast, nor was it an ordinary body of flesh and blood. It was a gigantic skeletal phoenix. A white bone that was several feet wide and several hundred feet long pierced through the body of the skeletal phoenix. At the front of the white bone was the skeleton of the skeletal phoenix that was several feet long. Although there were no feathers or phoenix crown, the skeleton was still proudly raised. From where the eyes of the skeletal phoenix were located, the darkness could even suck in one's gaze. At the back of the white bone was the skeletal phoenix's tail. Now that it was swaying slightly, traces of black gas were emitted in the air, and gusts of bone-piercing cold wind were also slowly produced. The two ends of the white bone were where the skeletal phoenix's wings were located. Now they were also white bones. These white bones had some scarlet brilliance within them, and traces of black gas were also entwining these white bones. As the skeletal phoenix approached, the skeletal phoenix's wings slowly retracted, and the white bones danced rhythmically. An indescribable sense of beauty and a strange feeling of fear unconsciously arose in everyone's heart. Chapter 2949. Actually, just by looking at the bones, it was impossible to tell if it was a bone phoenix or not. However, when Xiaohua first saw the bones, his first thought was that it was a bone phoenix. "Ga!" The bone phoenix landed, and it was only a few dozen meters away from the group. Just as it was about to retract its wings, the bone phoenix suddenly raised its head again. The place where it no longer had a beak spewed out black gas and red flames. With a screech, it pounced towards Xiaohua and the others. Not good. Xiaohua was shocked and immediately thought of Fairy Hongxia, who obtained the inheritance of the phoenix. She had the phoenix bloodline. Could it be that she would clash with this bone phoenix? Evil creature. How could old Wu let the bone phoenix get close to him? With a cold snort, he spat out a beam of green light from his mouth and rushed in front of the bone phoenix. The green light was like an arrow and hit the bone phoenix's skull. Rumble, with a loud sound. The bone phoenix's huge body couldn't withstand the green light. Its entire body collapsed in midair with a loud sound. Ga! The bone phoenix's entire body trembled violently. It slowly flapped its bone wings and countless black gas and red flames shot out. When it got up in midair, its cry was clearly filled with fear. This old Wu. How powerful is he? Xiaohua couldn't help but think. When the bone phoenix pounced over, that indescribable coldness and the sound of it breaking through the air showed how sharp its attack was. Xiaohua was confident that he wouldn't be able to withstand it easily. At this moment, Xiaohua's body suddenly trembled. An indescribable feeling came from the primordial spirit in his body. Moreover, as luck would have it, when Xiaohua's gaze swept over, it happened to be facing the bone phoenix's skeleton. A kind of provocation, a kind of unyieldingness, was born from that pitch-black area, falling right into Xiaohua's eyes. See, Xiaohua was shocked and thought. Could it be that the bone phoenix isn't attacking Fairy Hongxia, but me? Could it be that I also have the phoenix bloodline? Indeed, Xiaohua had always been puzzled by his phoenix dharma body. It was obvious that his dharma body was different from Fairy Hongxia and the others. It was transformed from the mighty Vajra dharma body. But since it was already in the form of the mighty Vajra, how could it turn into the form of a phoenix for no reason? Moreover, the primordial spirit that he sent into his corporeal body didn't have any other techniques other than practicing the celestial infusion technique. Xiaohua had never paid attention to it, but he didn't know why there was such a change when he met the bone phoenix today. Xiaohua couldn't help but wonder. Could it be that after this strand of primordial spirit passes through the lightning tribulation, there's something different about it? At this moment, Elder Wu raised his hand and said with a smile, "Little friend Xiao, please." Xiaohua hurriedly put away his thoughts and praised, "Senior, this mount of yours is also a little domineering. This junior really couldn't imagine it." When Elder Wu heard this, he was very pleased. He smiled and said, "It's not that you can't think of it, it's that you don't know. I am Huta Village's Elder Wu. It is normal for me to ride on this undead underworld beast." Undead underworld beast. Xiaohua nodded lightly, and seemed to be lost in thought. The two nether beasts he encountered in the netherworld ocean that day were probably like this as well. But it was very obvious that those two nether beasts were far less arrogant than this bone phoenix. However, if they were to compete in strength, Xiaohua didn't know who was more powerful. As expected, when Elder Wu got on the bone phoenix and Xiaohua stepped onto the white bone phoenix, the huge body of the bone phoenix trembled slightly. Even Elder Wu, who was standing steadily in front of the bone phoenix, couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. It seemed that he had never encountered such a situation before. However, Elder Wu didn't ask much. When Fairy Hongxia and the rest also got on the bone phoenix, Elder Wu ordered indifferently, "Let's go." Then a caw-caw-caw-caw sound like beans being fried rang out. The bone phoenix's wings gradually spread out. Amidst the black gas and red flames, its huge body slowly flew up. Around the bone phoenix, there were about 100 spirit warriors riding on strange spirit beasts. They escorted the bone phoenix out of the Hotian village. Standing on the bone phoenix, it was very stable. Although it didn't have the same protection as the flying boat, there were gusts of wind blowing against their faces. Furthermore, the black gas and red flames around the bone phoenix seemed to have no heat. There was even a kind of indescribable coldness that pierced through the skin and soul. But this was nothing to Xiaohua and the rest. The brilliance of the body protection flickered and blocked everything outside of their body. This was out of Xiao Mao and the rest's expectations. If it was any other time, Xiaohua would definitely ask Elder Wu about the bone phoenix. At this time, Xiaohua was indeed standing quietly behind Elder Wu. His gaze was level and his face was indifferent. It was as if the curiosity from before had disappeared. Xiaohua naturally didn't have the time to ask about the origin of the bone phoenix. This was because he had already sent the primordial spirit into the space. When he saw the second primordial spirit clearly, he could no longer hide the raging waves in his heart. That's right. Within the space, the second primordial spirit was no longer the same as before. In other words, it was different from the primordial spirit in the mysterious dark clouds and the primordial spirit in the hand of karma. This was because this primordial spirit had the appearance of a phoenix that spread its wings and flew high. It stretched its neck and let out a long cry. It looked disdainfully at the world. Not only that, this primordial spirit was five-colored. It was about a few feet in size. The five-colored light around its body was emitted from the primordial spirit. It was as if every tiny spot was a five-colored spot. Xiaohua didn't even need to think to know that there were a total of 13200 spots. He didn't know if Xiaohua's primordial spirit was split into 13200 spots again, or if it was the 13200 spots that formed Xiaohua's primordial spirit. Damn it, what the hell is going on? Xiaohua's mind looked at the phoenix primordial spirit that spread its wings and wanted to fly. He really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He really couldn't understand how this primordial spirit became like this. It was no wonder that the bone phoenix was on guard against him. After pondering for a moment, Xiaohua really felt powerless and was about to send this primordial spirit back to his body. However, in an instant he had another idea. When he obtained the Heavenly Laws embodiment technique from Zhang Qingxiao, he wanted to cultivate another embodiment technique in addition to the phoenix embodiment technique. Now that the primordial spirit of this body had succeeded in cultivating the Heavenly Laws embodiment technique, shouldn't it cultivate the Heavenly Laws embodiment technique? Xiaohua took out the jade slip from the space and sent it into the primordial spirit before sending it back to his body. Shortly after, Xiaohua's heart itched again. He really wanted to know the situation of the other primordial spirits. Although these primordial spirits would constantly send him information, he still didn't know the specific situation of the primordial spirits. The primordial spirit that cultivates the dragonization technique. This was the first primordial spirit that Xiaohua had split out. Similarly, he hadn't paid attention to it for a long time. I wonder what this guy has become. However, just as Xiaohua was about to call out the primordial spirit in his meridians, an incomparable palpitating feeling arose from his body. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent and quickly withdrew his consciousness from the space. He felt several rather unscrupulous soul senses sweeping over from afar. They swept past Xiaohua, Senior Wu, and landed on the bone phoenix, as if Senior Wu didn't exist. Humph, Senior Wu snorted coldly, but didn't do anything. However, when those soul senses landed on the bone phoenix, they immediately withdrew in panic, as if they were bitten by a poisonous snake, and didn't dare to probe any further. Xiaohua naturally didn't know whether these soul cultivators' soul senses were injured by the bone phoenix, but it was very obvious that this bone phoenix was the symbol of Senior Wu of Huta Stockade. When the millions of soul cultivators in Meng Mountain saw this bone phoenix, they immediately knew that Senior Wu had come personally. Who would dare to be bold? Knowing that there would be more harassment later, Xiaohua simply stopped his consciousness from entering the space. Looking at the huge bone phoenix under his feet, he asked curiously, "Senior, this mount of yours, where did you get it?" Where of course it's the Netherworld Sea. Senior Wu turned his face and said with a smile. I heard from Ziming that you went to the Netherworld Sea with her. And that's the only place where undead underworld beasts can be found. Oh my, Xiaohua stuck out his tongue and shook his head. That place is really dangerous. If it weren't for Ziming's repeated assurance that nothing would happen that day, Junior wouldn't have dared to go there. But who knew? Misfortunes and blessings are unpredictable. In the end, something still happened. Yes, misfortunes and blessings are unpredictable. This saying is really true. Senior Wu looked at Xiaohua with interest. If it weren't for little friend following me that day, I'm afraid that Ziming wouldn't have been able to return to Huta's stockade. This is Ziming's blessing, the great god Huta's protection. Junior was just lucky, Xiaohua said smoothly when talking about the great god Hutu. But Junior really didn't expect that the Netherworld Sea was actually under the Huta stockade. Little friend, you're wrong. Senior Wu shook his head. The Netherworld Sea is not under the Huta stockade. And it's not even in Ming Mountain. My Huta stockade is only slightly related to the Netherworld Sea, because of the great god Hutu. Moreover, this Netherworld Sea, to be honest, even I don't dare to go deep. If it weren't for the great god Huta's senses, I wouldn't be sure that this is the legendary Netherworld Sea. As for the Netherworld, at this point, Senior Wu shrugged his shoulders and didn't say anything else. Obviously, he also knew that Xiaohua had asked Ziming this question. Xiaohua didn't intend to ask so much. He just wanted to know the origin of the Bone Phoenix, so that he could know why the Bone Phoenix was hostile to him. Seeing that Senior Wu didn't want to say more, he naturally knew that this was probably the secret of the Huta stockade. His curiosity couldn't be satisfied. In the next few days, there were many people who coveted the Bone Phoenix. In addition to some soul senses, there were even many powerful divine senses that swept over, but they were all intimidated by Senior Wu's Bone Phoenix and fled far away. Xiaohua didn't release his divine sense, so he couldn't see clearly whether the person was a cultivator or a swordsman. Seeing that the situation was as serious as Senior Wu said, Xiaohua couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Chapter 2950. As the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. Even if Grandmaster Wu wanted to send them off personally, he would have sent them all the way to Drifting Cloud Lake. What would happen after they left Drifting Cloud Lake? Would those soul cultivators or swordsmen stop chasing them? They couldn't possibly stay under the protection of Grandmaster Wu of Huta Village forever. What should we do? Xiaohua looked at the vast Ming Mountains under the Bone Phoenix and frowned. When Xiaohua glanced at the withered cliffs, he raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, Senior, Junior has been staying in Huta Village for many days. I'm very grateful for Senior's kindness and G-Man and Z-Ming's hospitality. Now that Junior has to leave Huta Village and Ming Mountains, I'm a little reluctant. I want to make a small deal with Grandmaster Wu. I want to give a small gift to Huta Village. I wonder if Senior is interested? Oh. Grandmaster Wu turned his head slightly and said with a smile, Tell me about it. If I'm interested, of course, I can make a deal with you. Xiaohua squinted his eyes and said with a smile, Junior once obtained a jade slip in Shi country. It recorded a soul cultivation technique that could allow one to cultivate to pure God heaven. Of course, Junior knows that this mortal tier cultivation technique is the lowest tier among all the cultivation techniques in Ming Mountains. Even the so-called mortal, earth, heaven, and saint tiers were all created by the seniors of Dao sect by referring to the cultivation techniques of Dao sect and forcefully separating the inherent realms of soul warrior and shaman. Oh. You used that jade slip to cultivate to pure God heaven? Grandmaster Wu wasn't surprised at all. He said indifferently, Could it be that you want to get the so-called earth class and heaven class technique from me? Oh no, it should be saint class technique. That's right. Xiaohua didn't deny his thoughts and straightforwardly admitted it. He also knew that Zi Ming would report Master Qin Qin's matter. And it wasn't strange for Master Qin Qin's inheritance to have earth rank and heaven rank cultivation methods. Strange. Why didn't you ask for it that day in the ancestral temple? Grandmaster Wu felt strange. Xiaohua scratched his head and said embarrassedly, Millet seed is a necessity for the people of Ming Mountains. Junior felt that it wasn't good to threaten Senior with it. What's more, millet seeds are incomparably precious. It's not something that soul cultivation techniques can compare to. Hee, then what are you going to use to exchange for these cultivation techniques? Elder Wu chuckled. When Xiaohua heard this, he immediately became spirited and asked curiously, Senior, didn't you say that these cultivation methods are? Of course I can't teach you the soul cultivation techniques of my Huda stronghold. And you definitely won't be able to cultivate it. Elder Wu stretched out his hand and took out a few jade slips. He then said, but I have these so-called earth rank and heaven rank cultivation methods too, don't I? In fact, there were even some records of saint-level cultivation techniques. It's just that this old man doesn't know what you can take out to exchange for it. Your grandmother, Xiaohua almost wanted to slap his forehead. How could I forget about this? Since the soul cultivation technique passed down by Taoist sect could be found in Meng Mountains, it is only natural that Elder Wu of Huta Stockade would keep it as well. Since Senior has these jade slips, then that's easy, Xiaohua said with a smile. Junior will take them out now. If Senior is satisfied with them, then I'll let Senior set the price. After he finished speaking, Xiaohua's figure floated up high into the air. As he waved his hands, the dark clouds in the sky rapidly covered the sky. Rumbling sounds of thunder were produced from the dark clouds. Oh! When Elder Wu saw this, he was slightly stunned, but he couldn't help but reveal a smile on the corner of his mouth. However, Xiaohua's figure was like a dragon. Lightning was lingering around his body. Every time he waved his hands, there would be lightning that was as thick as a thumb falling down. Under the gloomy sky, the lightning flashed. How similar was it to the time when Shueshue took the Linglei pill to build her foundation in the Kueha Sea that day? After the thunder rumbled, Xiaohua's body suddenly trembled. Wisps of green light rushed out from between Xiaohua's eyebrows. As soon as these green lights appeared, they immediately formed into strange patterns. These strange patterns turned into green lights and wrapped around Xiaohua's body. At the same time, waves of energy were also emitted, echoing Xiaohua's trembling body and rushing into the sky. Suddenly, the entire sky was filled with strange sounds. Woo 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 woo, it sounded like the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves. Moreover, the green lights lingered around Xiaohua's body for a moment, then rushed into the sky and turned into hundreds of thousands of tiny green seal scripts. These tiny green seal scripts seemed to have intelligence as they surged and danced in the sky nearby. In the end, these green seal scripts formed into a green seal script that was dozens of feet in size. It emitted a dark green brilliance in the sky and slowly circled around. As this green seal script circled around, it emitted an even louder sound. This sound was very ear-piercing and extremely strange, as if it had existed since the beginning of this world, but also as if it had never existed in this world. The source of the sound was the most mysterious place in this world. Everyone was flabbergasted. However, before they could think about it any further, the enormous green seal text suddenly vanished. Along with its disappearance, a strange sound resounded in an area of several hundred meters around Xiaohua. The sound was like thunder, oppressive to the extreme, and dense to the point that it was like rain. Moreover, as this sound was emitted, waves of energy that ordinary people couldn't detect once again emitted from Xiaohua's body, and rushed into the sky with incomparable speed. High up in the sky, amidst the thunder and dark clouds, a little bit of light gradually appeared. The cloud summoning rain technique. Although Elder Wu was somewhat prepared, he couldn't help but exclaim in shock. After all, it had only been a few months since Xiaohua first used the incomplete cloud summoning rain technique. Moreover, Elder Wu thought that as a Dao sect cultivator, Xiaohua wouldn't be able to grasp the pronunciation of the green seal script for hundreds, or even thousands of years. It was impossible for him to easily use the cloud summoning rain shaman incantation. Plop, 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 drops of raindrops fell like pearls, and they were very scattered. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Not long after, the raindrops formed a string and hung in the sky, shining brilliantly and extremely beautiful. Another half a meal's worth of time later, rumble, amidst the thunder and lightning, the rain poured down like a torrential downpour. Hua hua hua, the sound of the rain falling endlessly could be heard. The entire sky was pierced by the seemingly endless rain. Big, Big brother Xiao Mao stood on the bone phoenix. The yellow talisman protecting his body flickered, blocking the raindrops outside of the brilliance. He opened his mouth and exclaimed a few times. He really couldn't hide the disbelief and confusion in his heart. This was cloud summoning rain technique. This was the legendary ability of immortals, and this mysterious big brother of his was actually able to use it effortlessly. He had used the cloud summoning rain talisman with Xiaohua before. The power of the yellow seal was completely incomparable to the power of this cloud summoning rain technique. Not to mention Xiao Mao's astonishment, even Fairy Hongxia and Li Zongbao looked on in extreme disbelief, stunned on the spot. Sai, old Wu, who was slightly absent-minded, sighed softly. With a wave of his hand, he kept the jade strip in his pocket. He looked regretfully at Xiaohua, who was like a deity in the dark, like rain falling from the heavens. Xiaohua did not stop at one spot. Instead, he slowly flew forward with the bone phoenix. Following his figure, the dark clouds also moved, and the torrential rain also spread forward amidst the thunder and lightning. The strangest thing was that the dark clouds did not move at a visible speed. Instead, they appeared as they moved, as if there was no end to them at all. After flying like this for a meal's worth of time, Xiaohua slowly descended. The lightning around his dragon-like body was still faintly lingering, and the green light was also spread all over the surroundings. As he approached, bursts of explosions could be heard coming from the green light. How do you feel? Elder Wu asked worriedly as he looked at Xiaohua's descending figure. Very good. Xiaohua's face was not pale, but rather a little green. He nodded slightly and said, "This is the first time this junior has used the cloud summoning rain technique. My soul sense is somewhat exhausted." He. Elder Wu turned his head to look at Xiao Mao and the others. He did not speak too openly and said, "Soul sense is nothing. If it wasn't for the consumption of life essence, little friend Xiao, you would be." However, he did not say the rest of his words out loud. Instead, he chose to send a voice transmission. "I wouldn't dare." Xiaohua hurriedly shook his head. Then he raised his head and said, "Senior, are you satisfied with this junior's gift? Haha, let this old man see how much your cloud summoning rain technique can bring about." Elder Wu laughed. With a tap of his foot, the bone phoenix's wings flapped rapidly, and its speed suddenly increased. Ignoring the stunned spirit warriors around it, it rushed forward. The bone phoenix flew for several li before it escaped from the torrential rain. When the bone phoenix stopped in midair, everyone turned their heads to look at the rainwater that was pouring down like a heavenly river not far away. It really felt like two different worlds. This torrential rain continued for the time it took to eat a meal before it slowly stopped. At the same time, the dark clouds in the sky also slowly dispersed. However, this time was different from last time. Most of the dark clouds created by the lightning summoning technique had disappeared, but a small portion of the dark clouds created by the cloud summoning rain technique remained in midair. It was similar to the situation of a normal dark rain. There was not a trace of a technique at all. The green seal runes steal the essence of heaven and earth and do the things of heaven and earth. It really is a technique that surpasses all other techniques in the world. Even Xiaohua himself was endlessly praising the miraculous effects of the cloud summoning rain technique. "Senior, how is it?" Xiaohua asked for the second time. Elder Wu looked at the flowing water that covered the mountains, and heard the sound of flowing water again. His face revealed a smile as he nodded and said, "Very good." Then Xiaohua's thumb and forefinger slightly rubbed together, as if he was hinting at Elder Wu. This rain is not bad, but it's still too little." Elder Wu laughed. "Right now we're still very far away from the flowing cloud lake. Most of the Wu villages under my back earth stronghold cannot be blessed by the rain. This old man still wants to see the effects." Chapter 2951. Fine. Xiaohua sighed, but he wasn't disheartened. The reason he used the thunder summoning technique and the cloud summoning technique was to intimidate the weak, and at the same time he could give the millions of natives of Meng Mountains rain, and do in exchange for a soul cultivator's cultivation technique. Killing two birds with one stone. Why wouldn't he do it? For the next few months, Xiaohua used the cloud summoning technique every day. Moreover, the green seal script didn't seem to cause any harm to Xiaohua's life essence. His face was still the same as before, and time didn't leave any trace on it. Moreover, in these few months, Xiaohua's nascent divinity soared 90,000 miles in the mysterious dark clouds, directly reaching the peak of clear God heaven. He was only one step away from reaching bright Ruo heaven. Of course, the effect of the cloud summoning technique on the nascent divinity was the same as the effect of spirit pills on a cultivator's cultivation. It was always extremely effective in the beginning, but the further one used it, the weaker the effect would be. As for those soul scholars, swordsmen, and even cultivators who coveted Xiaohua and the others, in the beginning, the number of people who noticed Xiaohua's divine ability didn't decrease. But as the reign increased, more and more people noticed Xiaohua's divine ability. Everyone knew that Xiaohua was important in Huta's stronghold. And even in the entire Ming Mountains, everyone understood that a person like this wasn't someone that a single power could control. Therefore, in the end, the number of soul senses and divine wills that swept over actually decreased by a lot, gradually disappearing. Of course, the most important thing was that since Xiaohua knew the cloud summoning technique, who could guarantee that he didn't know other killing techniques? Within Ming Mountains, all soul warriors and shamans knew that using green seal script incantations would consume their life essence. No one dared to use it carelessly. Even if it was an incantation used to kill, they would still be extremely cautious when using it. Now that they saw Xiaohua casually using the green seal script, who would dare to come and look for trouble? Although Xiaohua couldn't distinguish north from south, east from west, and couldn't tell if he was near Drifting Cloud Lake, he estimated that it was about time. Only then did he let out a long breath. His killing the chicken to scare the monkey, or as it was called, joining forces finally had some effect. Little friend, you've worked hard. Old Wu looked at Xiaohua descending. The green light on his face was extremely bright. He said indifferently, "Your empty fort strategy is almost used up. You should rest more. If you have any rejuvenation pills, you can take some. Although you can use the green seal script incantations, it isn't as simple as you think. In the future, if there's no special reason, I advise you to use it less." Yes, this junior understands. Xiaohua knew that he had reaped what he had sown and made Elder Wu somewhat dissatisfied, but he had no other choice. Once they left Ming Mountains, they would have to rely on themselves. If they did not make any plans for themselves, why would they need others to worry about them? His teat. Just as Old Wu said, at this moment, the green light in Xiaohua's clear spirit heaven was dim. Other than the little white dragon's soul that was not affected, whether it was Xiaohua's primordial spirit or those soul strands, they all felt weak. There were even specks of green light. Those 50 green seal characters were also weakly floating in the sky. Sai Xiaohua sighed. He took out some twilight moon from his space and sent it into Qingshan heaven. Immediately, an indescribable nourishment was transmitted into Xiaohua's soul along with the green light of Qingshan heaven. It was just like when he tasted the spirit tea brewed by midnight in the tea house in Sky Patrol City. Wonderful. Xiaohua sighed and couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Then he thought to himself, damn it, even the Huda stronghold has such a good thing like the twilight moon. Then among the things the Shaman King sent, are there even more useful things for soul cultivators? Thinking of the Shaman King, Xiaohua frowned again. This Shaman King seems to know too much? How did he know that I like to collect these things? Could it be that his divine connection technique can predict this space? Thinking of this, Xiaohua's back was suddenly covered in cold sweat. Impossible. Impossible. In a hurry, Xiaohua thought of Jiuxia. Even someone as strong as Jiuxia couldn't know. How could the Shaman King know? But I might have to make some preparations first. Xiaohua was worried again. A man without foresight is bound to have immediate worries. If I get too many spirit seeds, who knows what kind of trouble that cultivator or swordsman will come up with? Xiaohua's meditation lasted for several days. As the bone phoenix flew past the foothills, the drifting cloud lake that Xiaohua and the rest had first arrived at appeared in the distance. Fairy Hongxia stood on the bone phoenix's back, biting her lips. Her eyes looked at the foothills, which had already turned green. and her heart was filled with mixed feelings. She really couldn't imagine. She had only come to the ancestral shrine of Million Meng Mountains once, from the time she encountered the night rain when passing by Drifting Cloud Lake, to the time when she was sent out of Million Meng Mountains by Elder Wu of Huta Stockade using the Bone Phoenix, to the time when she came to Drifting Cloud Lake again. In just 2 years, so many things had happened. She then looked at the man who was sitting cross-legged in front of her. The green light around his body was gradually disappearing. His back was still thin, but it was still so stalwart. She felt a sense of softness and warmth in her heart. During this period of time, everything that happened was shouldered by this man. She felt incomparably safe in this man's chest. If it weren't for this man's protection, let alone her, even Xiao Mao and Li Zongbao would have perished in the Meng Mountains. Not to mention, each of them had their own fortuitous encounters now. What I said earlier? My attitude towards Jiuxia, towards Ziming, was it too much? Fairy Hongxia hesitated. After all, my dear Xiao didn't do anything with them? Caw. At this moment, the skeletal phoenix let out a long cry that sounded like a deep thunderclap, waking Fairy Hongxia up from her deep thoughts. When Fairy Hongxia focused her gaze, she saw that they had arrived at the border of Mount Meng. Clouds and mist were slowly seeping out from the drifting cloud lake in the distance, and the skeletal phoenix had stopped in midair, flapping its wings that were flickering with a red glow and black mist. It's time to go back. Fairy Hongxia sighed. She couldn't help but turn around and look. Although the vast and boundless Million Meng Mountains were still mysterious, it was obvious that a corner of this mystery had been lifted. Under this mystery, the 4 of them had left behind countless feelings. Xiaohua was also awakened by the bone phoenix's cry. A green light flashed across his body, and he stood up from the bone phoenix. He also looked down, and then turned around to look at the depths of Million Meng Mountains. Flying out from the bone phoenix, he took a deep breath and said, "Senior, there's no such thing as an eternal banquet in this world. Although the Huta stronghold is located in the depths of Million Meng Mountains, but in the blink of an eye, we've arrived at the edge of Million Meng Mountains. I believe that with Venerable Wu's prestige, you can't easily step into the sword domain, right?" He Venerable Wu chuckled, looking at the distant clouds. "Since when did Meng Mountains have so many rules? However, if I step into the sword domain, those sword cultivators in the sword domain would be unhappy. It's better for me not to go. Then we'll bid farewell. We're grateful for Senior's kindness in sending us off." Xiaohua bowed deeply, and then looked at Venerable Wu. Of course, he had the intention of intimidating them by summoning clouds and rain for such a long time. Xiaohua also coveted the so-called earth, heaven and saint-class cultivation techniques. However, Venerable Wu didn't seem to know. Looking at Li Zongbao, Xiao Mao, and Fairy Hongxia flying out from the bone phoenix and bowing to Venerable Wu, he waved his hand and said, "It's still far from here to the 3 kingdoms of cultivators. I can't send you off. It's better for you all to be careful." After saying that, Venerable Wu put his hand behind his back, and the bone phoenix circled around, spreading its wings and flying away. The group of spirit warriors that were guarding the stronghold also urged their spirit beasts to follow. That Xiaohua couldn't help but reach out his hand and open his mouth, as if he wanted to call out to Venerable Wu. But he was too embarrassed to call out to him. "Damn it, it's broken, it's broken." Looking at the back of the bone phoenix that was getting smaller and smaller, and the black aura and red light that were fading, Xiaohua couldn't help but shout out. He was thinking of summoning clouds and rain, and wanted to leave a good impression on Venerable Wu so that he could obtain the soul cultivation technique from him. Who knew that Venerable Wu would see through his intentions in an instant? Or maybe he was angry in his heart, and actually left with a flick of his sleeves. Everything he did before was in vain. Let's go." Xiaohua was a little dejected, and like a rooster that had lost a fight, he weakly waved his hand and said, Fairy Hongxia covered her mouth and laughed. She understood her lover's thoughts very well. Flying to Xiaohua's side, she pulled on Xiaohua's Taoist robe and said, "Xiaohua, don't forget. You said that day that you would let Venerable Wu bargain based on the situation. Furthermore, Venerable Wu didn't really promise you that he would give you the cultivation technique. It's normal that he doesn't want to give it to you now. How would I know that Venerable Wu would be so untrustworthy? Xiao Hua was a little flustered and exasperated. He shouted, "If he doesn't like it, then so be it. Why didn't he say a word? I was just afraid that others would hunt us down. That's why I showed a little bit of my strength. Is there a need for him to be so jealous?" Hee hee, Xiao Mao also laughed. "Big brother, you have to be careful with your words. Don't let Venerable Wu hear you. We haven't left Million Meng Mountains yet." Hearing that, Xiao Hua rolled his eyes. Looking at the disappearing distance, he said resentfully, "That's exactly what I want Venerable Wu to hear. Being trustworthy. That's the basic principle of being a person. Let's go." Li Zongbao waved his hand indifferently. "If we stay here any longer, someone might really come after us." Do you think I'm afraid of them?" Xiao Hua sneered, but he still flew up. Xiao Mao also took out the flowing cloud airship and invited everyone to board. "Oh right, Xiao Mao, why is there no news about Yiyu?" After the flowing cloud airship flew past the flowing cloud lake, Xiao Hua still didn't give up looking at Million Meng Mountains. Suddenly he thought of something and asked, "You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."